by Thomas, also known as Yama. We are going to talk about what would happen if clans actually or if the cycles actually rotated when they were supposed to. Um, we've got a document here that shows all the cards out of cycles 1 and 2, because that would have cycled basically next month, right?
November-ish. The first pack of the next cycle would
Yeah.
have been the original plan.
Yes. So, yeah. So I guess technically next month, but it feels a little bit longer.
Alright, it's already October.
Yeah, I know, right? um, so we've got here just some formatting stuff. These are all the cards from cycles 1 and 2 broken up by clan and by cycle. The cards that have strike through on them are basically cards that I don't think anyone's going to care that they're leaving. Either they didn't see, actually mostly because they didn't see play or were too confusing to see play. The orange cards are Pathfinder's Blades, Jesus Christ, are the restricted cards. And the red cards are banned cards that hit the banned list. I went through and flagged some cards that I think could be okay going evergreen if there was going to be like a core 2.0. Seeing these cards wouldn't have made me sad, and I think they're good for a game.
Or is it possible reprint in a premium product? Because premium products have been noted to have a case-by-case base of rotation.
That is true. So I guess clan packs and the big boxes like Clan Wars and Children of the Empire are technically evergreen until they're
not. Clan packs rotate when the next clan pack comes out.
Yes, and I actually hope they don't do any more clan packs. I took a look at some clan packs from a discussion on the Discord, and most of them are kind of worthless. Like the Crane pack has 2 cards, I think, that see play in there. The Scorpion pack has 3.
That might be a discussion for another video.
Yes, probably. So yeah, I guess just kicking it off. First up on the list is the crab decks, or crab cards. I think the only one that'll really be missed leaving is Pathfinder's Blade.
Well, the funny thing is that that's going to be missed not by crab.
No, it'll be missed by dragon.
Well, not even really dragon, because from recent events, I've seen it used in the unicorn decks, because unicorn doesn't have as of this moment, a valid restricted card.
Yeah, okay. And I guess they get a lot of mileage out of Common Cause now, since they're cheating the people into play anyway. They don't have fate, so we're not losing value.
But it's a real shame, because Pathfinder's Blade is a card that would have been very nice to have when it came out for a lot of clans, but at that point of time we had the role locking, which meant only dragon could play it.
Yeah. I think if they were going to do like a reprint of Pathfinder's Blade, because they've already put out Inscribed Tonto, and if they're going to have a free weapon, Inscribed Tonto basically does nothing, but because Pathfinder's Blade does do a thing, it probably should have the restricted keyword on there.
A lot of things.
A lot of things, yeah. That's true. We actually have someone in the chat, Huntsucker. We are talking about what would have happened, or what cards leave play if rotation were to happen next month. Since that was what was supposed to happen, and how it would affect some decks. Sorry, you were going to say?
Yeah, and it's a thought experiment to see what would happen, and to have a look into the future of like next year or year and a half when it is supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think for the Imperial cycle, Crab, I think they don't actually lose anything out of this. None of the other cards are really played, and just 1 second.
Iron Man has seen a fair bit of use. Hiruma Skirmisher, it's kind of a staple because it's just a fair character to have.
It is, but I think for the most part, um, Haruma Skirmisher has basically been replaced by Nozumi Infiltrator.
Yeah, which I find kind of interesting to see, but it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's just like the covert's really useful, but I think the value of being able to declare a surprise political conflict is worth more.
That's
Uh,
fair.
I don't think Iron Mine's going to get missed since it's living on the restricted list next to um, Rebuild, which is what made it super, super good.
Yeah, Iron Man has seen a sort of functional reprint in Roadside Inn.
I have not seen that card played because
Uh,
you still have to pay for that fate.
I have seen it play in some decks, but um, that shows the difference between the paying one fate and
Mm-hmm.
it being free.
Yeah, no, it's a super huge difference. Yeah, we'll get to Unicorn, and it is basically going to be they just lose HMT. Um, I think,
Bit more, but that's the big thing. Yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, like they lose nothing but the best stronghold they have access to, which kind of sucks. Uh,
we'll get to them in a bit.
yes. Uh, from the elemental cycle, um, I personally really liked pragmatism. Uh, there were some really funny things you could do with that card as a Scorpion.
Yeah,
Um,
and even if you weren't putting it on your opponent's characters and using it yourself,
mhm.
there was a neat crab lower honor deck, but that deck really suffered from not having any honor game.
Yeah,
So
I think you could probably get away with trying to redo that deck now since they got Pious Guardian
Pi-
recently.
Pious Guardian is huge for crab
Yeah,
in a pretty understated way, but um, it's quite valuable. But yeah,
yeah,
it's a card that never got to see use because that deck is way too risky,
yeah,
especially when Scorpion was dominant.
yeah. Well, I mean, Scorpion is and probably will forever be dominant because of how the rules work um, and how they keep designing really good cards for Scorpion. But yeah, no, you couldn't run that when it came out because at that point Scorpion was still or was running a Fate Worse Than Death, Forged Edict, all the
A lot of
terrible,
things.
terrible things. Yeah. Um, but I do think. Oh, and Yusuke Broker is probably the other big card that Crab loses at rotation because that is like a huge part of their economy deck.
It is the only card. So we haven't mentioned yet, but uh, we're comparing this list with the uh, top performing list at the moment
Yes,
of each clan from the Discord Cup, Gold Cup
yes. We pull up
27.
the. This is we've got two Crab decks to look at, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be in
It's
both of
only
them.
Yasuki Broker. It,
It's a,
in the Dynasty side, it's only Yasuki Broker.
yep. I
The Dynasty side doesn't even use any cards from the Imperial cycle.
Yeah. I mean, because I mean, you look at the cards. Kagome doesn't get used because again, you can't. At the time, especially, Crab couldn't be less honorable to use it. Uh, Tainted Hero just didn't do enough. It's like as a stat stick, it wasn't good enough. And I was not a fan of the ring mini cycle they did, where every clan got cards that got better if you had certain rings.
Yeah,
Because
those are very hit and miss. Like only two being used, but anyway, we're
yeah,
talking crap.
yeah,
So
and they also
so from
lose.
the
I was going to just real quick. They also lose flooded waste, and I don't think anyone cares about that
No,
because that is just it's a neat effect, but it's way too soft of a province on
it,
for an effect.
it's a general problem provinces have that if you only work when you flip, you're not strong enough unless you do something
Yeah.
terribly offensive.
See old restoration of balance.
Yeah. Anyway, so the two lists we have are from Pinter Pin and from Not Fragile, both pretty prominent crab players.
Hmm.
Um,
So look,
from so looking at them from Imperial, they don't use any trap cards
no.
in both of their decks. So
Pinterpin's deck actually suffers a lot from the dragon cards that would cycle out
yep, because
because it loses the ancient masters and hurricane punches.
yep, and
Uh,
Not Fragile's deck would lose the Hawks two and the two Phytons.
yep,
With with Phyton being a very good card on its release, and
it
uh,
is, and it's one I'd like to see go evergreen because I think it supports Crab's defense idea or philosophy, and it being role locked to one of the less favorable roles, I think is keeps it in check.
I I think it's fine even ignoring supporting a role,
Hmm.
uh, being able to have something to allow yourself to be more defensive as crab
Yeah,
with your heavy defense focus and still be able to attack to be on the aggressive
yeah,
is totally fine. Like it
it is.
doesn't.
It doesn't do anything unreasonable. Like
No,
the worst you can say about it is it does two things for the price of one because stands are everywhere in the game. There's a lot of movement effects now, and so it being roll locked lets it be a little bit more powerful.
and it does cost you a fate, which is
Yes, it matters.
it matters. It's a good card. It's not unreasonable, and it's fine to keep in the pool.
Hmm. The other RL card that would be leaving is the Cooney Labs. With it being paired with Rebuild, I don't see anyone ever taking it on its own because the cost that was supposed to be associated with it is too much if you can't avoid paying it.
Yeah, and while we do have a way to get the honor back now with Pious Guardian, the the swarming deck that Crab has
Hmm.
just was overperforming because the bodies just became too much value.
Yeah, no, especially I mean, I like it definitely needed to be separated from Rebuild because when you can rebuild that, you're not paying the cost for running it.
Yep.
Um, but I think that kind of blanket effect is probably too strong. Even now that Crab has Bob the Rebuilder, they got that engineer that lets him rebuild when he comes into play.
Yeah, the apprentice engineer is that guy in the decks? I know he's out.
He just came out, and I know for Clan Wars they haven't done a resubmit for Pack 6 yet.
Oh, he's in pack six. Yeah,
Yeah,
so he's not in these decks.
correct. But I imagine he will be.
Yep. So basically, Crab will lose very little from Cycle,
Yeah, like
except for like two or three cards that are good value but aren't overperformers.
yeah, like Crab has a strong economy even without the Yasuki Broker. Um, I think the decks that rely on the Yasuki Broker are going to get hurt, but overall, Crab could survive without that.
I, I think that's actually probably, while it might not be better for Crab, it might just be healthier for the meta balance because you probably have had games. where your crab opponent started with 0 in the conflict phase and ended up with like 10.
Yeah, no, it's really bad between the broker and the envoys and the gallant quartermasters and all the other cards that they can sacrifice. They just generate so much money.
Yeah, like 10 is probably an extreme amount, but
No, but like
it,
five is reasonable for what they could get.
yeah, that's just too much.
Mm-hmm.
So Cramp will, when rotation happens in 2 cycles, Cramp will lose basically nothing of value.
Correct. And it's quite likely that in the coming cycles we'll see cards that would possibly even edge out the broker. Uh, so they would lose very little, if anything, from in clan.
Correct. So let's move on to Crane then.
Yes, Crane is really easy. They basically don't lose anything from the Imperial cycle.
So let's look at the top Crane deck,
Yeah. So this is
or in this case, top 2.
yeah. So this is Jincito's deck. Uh, there is nothing from Imperial on the conflict side.
Jincito has 2 Gaijin Customs from Imperial
Oh, is
and
that from
two
Imperial?
Talisman.
So it's really, this is a little side tangent. It's really hard for me to separate what
Go
cards are from the first cycle.
go to card type
Uh,
on 5 rings. If you go to the
yep.
card type above Dynasty, no.
I'm sorry. Start that over. Go to.
Go to card type on above Dynasty.
Oh, there. Okay. We can break it up by cycle.
Yep. No, you want the most left one.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Oh wow, that's a really useful thing.
Yeah.
I was not aware that was a thing you could do. I want to have to play with that. Okay.
It's super handy.
Yeah. Oh shit. Okay. Um, but yeah, I was gonna say it's really hard for me to separate what was the Imperial cycle because it came out so soon after Core started, and it came out like the entire cycle dropped in like a month and a half. And so the first cycle is basically the same
Therefore,
as Core's in my mind.
which is not a unfair statement as they were designed
Yes.
together.
Sure, sure.
So we can see from Giancito and from Casual Duder's decks that Dynasty side they use basically the same thing. That is the tea house. No wait, that's inheritance.
Yeah, no, there's
You
nothing.
see nothing in Dynasty side
Steve.
from Imperial and from Elemental. Conflict side, they both are using the Gaijin Customs, Talisman of the Sun,
And formal invitation.
and formal invitation, which is pretty telling. Like formal invitation is a pretty good card because it can also be used as a harpoon effect. It's a bit wonky because of the 2 glory requirement.
Yes, I have seen it, and I believe I've used it myself as a harpoon effect just when I absolutely needed to win the next conflict, not the one I was currently in.
Yeah. So, but because you can also use on your own characters with this kind of deck style with the Gaijin Customs, the Magistrate Station, which we should mention is also from Elemental.
Yes. Hang on, let me close out these crap decks. Yeah, so the biggest thing that Crane would lose is Magistrate Station. And I didn't color code it like this because I didn't want to mess around with trying to do 2 different colors at the same time. I actually think Magistrate Station would be fine if it were an evergreen card.
I find Magistrate Station very hard to judge because when it just came out, and now with it being the RL choice again, it's a terrible card to play against, having it be there. I don't think it's awful if there were just more ways to interact with it.
Sure. I know as a Scorpion player, I was, and when I went to Worlds, I never had a problem with Magistrate Station because I was running a bunch of Miyakos, Mark of Shames. Um,
Yeah.
I can definitely see it being a problem if you don't have any way to interact with honored tokens. Um,
Yeah.
but
For a lot of clans, it basically meant you might as well concede if you didn't break it.
yes, and it still is like that. But I think like it is. I don't think the effect is too much, especially since it's an RL card. Um, it does
I
it does
I don't
separate
think.
it from other annoying cards, especially when Kyun Kikita can basically honor anyone practically for free.
Yeah, it's a lot of free. Like it's a because the Kyunkita and Magistrate Station don't cost you cards from hand.
Correct.
It, like the ability to stand it, nowadays is much maligned, but those at least cost you deck slots and fate.
That's fair. That there is a lot of stand, but it does at least have some kind of cost associated with it. I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I would rather see a magistrate station than a Toshimoko across the table from me. It's
Yeah.
just I I can definitely see the arguments for it not going evergreen.
Like because we have seen this kind of effect with a new province. I think it's the water one, the Pursuit of Justice, which is during a conflict, a water province ready a character,
Yes, already a participating character, right?
Part- participating character.
Yeah,
Yes, I think if you make because even if the action is only during a conflict, like even if you could target anyone,
yeah. No,
but it has to be during a
that's
conflict, is a huge difference.
that is actually a good point. I know, like the biggest problem was when you flip magistrate station, Crane will all in defend it, and then just stand up whoever they want after the fact. I know back in the day there was like hypothetical changes to it, and I think probably one of the better ones was it was on attack declaration. You could straighten an honored character.
Uh, yeah, that's fine because the character couldn't participate because you need a ready character to declare an attack.
Yeah, but it was also basically it stopped it from being a way to generate offense and became a way to generate defense.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I can see I don't mind the effect, but I guess you're right that the cost of that effect is too free.
yeah. Like it, I'm fine with it existing. Because Crane has very little. Well, I say that, and they have two or three duels that basically work like a clarity of purpose. So
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
not sure.
I don't know. It's definitely a card that I think isn't. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it after going back and forth. Like I still like the card, and I don't want to see that kind of effect go away. But I will also concede the fact that I'm coming at it from a clan that has a very easy time dealing with the token it cares about.
Yeah, like that's a different experience and such. Like we can go on a back and forth all we want, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely gonna be a card that's gonna be missed.
Yes. One card that we kind of glossed over from the Imperial cycle is Kakita Yoshi 1. Um,
Yeah, who fell out of favor a lot because of the appearance of Shogun 2.
yes. Um, I haven't seen either Yoshi played all that much, so I don't know how much it'll be missed. But I do know
I'm
basically out of all the cards that were listed from Imperial Cycle, he's the only one that sees play.
yeah, I'm not sure because Hideyoshi is and was kind of a powerhouse, like drawing free, reducing cost,
Oh yeah, no, like
and
I'm fine with either the card draw or the two fate cost reduction. Both of those being in the same ability is a little bonkers.
yet he still doesn't see play despite Crane maligning their lack of card draw. While here is a repeatable draw free.
Yeah,
It's it's probably because the game has sped up uh, noticeably that his fate cost is just too much nowadays.
yeah. I think most clans are looking to their
Free
three
costers.
three costers, maybe four costers. Butcher's a good example of a busted four coster you can lean on all day. Um,
And less nowadays with the errata, but
yes,
still a
yes,
quite good card.
yeah, no, pre-errata, absolutely. Um, but yeah, I think his ability doesn't generate enough value at its fate cost, if that makes sense, which sounds stupid because
Yeah,
it's a super good ability. Um, but I think you need more immediate blowout at your five cost. Because
yeah, and that yeah.
if you draw bad cards, that ability did nothing.
Well, it's still a fate reduction for your other events, but
True.
you have to do it in the conflict. It's probably also because Crane's dominance or advantage on gaining the favor has become less and less, with more clans
Yes,
getting stands to
and
generate more use out of their glory, or
we'll also
uh,
see a card going away out of Dragon that helps people steal a favor all the goddamn time.
yeah, which was used. We already mentioned in one of the crab tanks, and
Yep,
which was used a lot by Crane in those days to claim the favor.
yep. I'm not going to be sorry to see that. I guess before we jump into Dragon, is there anything else from this list that is standing out? I know you'd initially like on the list you came up with, Tengu Sensei was flagged. I think that was
The
a card
thing
that.
is, thing is, it was another card that caused a lot of headache for people because not being able to attack is awful,
Mhm.
and he also got much use because of the interaction with Majesty Station. But he's besides that, he's basically a blank five coster.
Yeah, and like we said for Yoshi, like that ability is like you get that same blowout effect with a tattooed wanderer for one.
Yeah, or a assassination or whatever you want.
Yeah,
It's not enough nowadays.
yeah, which is kind of scary. I guess the other card that going away, Soul Beyond Reproach, that still sees some
It
play.
it sees some play, but um, Scorp. You, you can talk about it firsthand. Scorpion was the number one clan to use this against.
Yes, because we could
Mhm.
generate the most value out of it because our dudes were always dishonored anyway.
Yeah, but um, with a lot of those instant, like Mark of Shame is on the restricted list because well, it made other cards useless.
Hmm.
But Soul Beyond Reproach is just fell out of favor in Crane because you get a free honor from your stronghold.
Yeah,
You've got other honoring effects.
they've absolutely hit the critical mass of honoring for free.
Yeah,
That paying one fate to do it twice is not as good. Because with the stronghold, Suma, savvy politician, way of Crane,
yeah,
uh,
and the two clans, it it's probably most useful in besides creating Phoenix and Lion. Lion has Prepare for War,
Yep.
which basically is a
It's a better
somewhat
Sylveon.
it's a somewhat more limited Soulbound approach because it's only on commanders. But commanders are basically the best characters Line
Yep.
has at the moment,
And
if you're not in specific deck builds.
it also clears out problematic
Attachments.
attachments like Cloud the Mind.
Yeah.
Like, that's a card that bothers me. It does way too much for way too little. But I'm also biased because I don't like seeing my Dishonor tokens I've worked so hard to put on your characters go away.
That's fair enough. But the other one is Phoenix, and uh, Phoenix just hardly ever does Crane Splash because they have no they have some innate attachment control now with the Inspired Visionary,
Yes,
but
that's attachment control on paper. I don't think I've ever actually seen him played.
yeah, it's too slow because he needs to be ready when the Fate Phase happens. So either you often see him go Dragon Splash for the Let Goes to protect against the Cloud the Mines you mentioned, or to hit important attachments, or the Line Splash for the Phoenix deck, which doesn't care about attachments.
Yeah. So Crane overall, it is, but like overall, I think Crane doesn't get losing Magistrate Station sucks, but they have plenty of other um, RL choices that are just as good, I think.
Yeah, and if we look beyond the RL choice and just at what it does at readying, Crane has some not bound from conflict stuff in clan.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think they'll manage.
Yeah. As far as cards to go evergreen, Formal Invitation I think is fine, and I think Cal Delegate is fine too.
Yeah, Cal Delegate is a totally fine character to have, and just does what it needs to do. Cheap Courtier can do conflicts, and when it goes, it gives you an honor token.
Yeah, like its effect is neat, and it because they've printed some disguise characters. I'd like to see more. There's some fun interactions you can do. I know I've played Miyako over a Callow Delegate to set up an immediate Noble Sacrifice.
Yep.
Dragon, I legitimately think they don't lose. Like, they lose Seal of the Dragon, but that card is terrible and needs to go away because it enables way too much.
Yeah, it's the funny thing that out of all the seals, the dragon one is the only one that has ever been relevant.
I can tell you why that is. It's because of
Do
how.
tell.
It's because of how the cards that support the trait it gives interact with it. So you play a Seal of the Dragon on someone. Hurricane Punch, Void Fist, and Sacred Sanctuary are basically all fire and forget abilities. Once you play them, it doesn't matter if the seal goes away or not, they still get the ability. The commander trait, you know, nowadays it matters. It's a little similar, but there's better cards that give that trait. But
there are only two cards that give the commander trait.
I mean, Take Up Command is better than Seal.
Depends on your deck. Because the seal still gives you a +1 military.
Sure, but technically Take Up Command can give you plus X military based on the Bushi. But
yeah, that's why I say depending on the deck.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
You are right that all the dragon cards that care about monk are all either events or provinces.
Yes, because like Shinobi is the worst example. Because all the cards that care about Shinobi basically only care if the Shinobi's out of play.
Except for
the Sakai House Confident that never gets played because it's a terrible, terrible card.
No, the one that dishonors your Shinobi to give a opposing character -4 military.
Yes, that is true. Not
that's, I
by any
think,
means.
the only one.
No, Discouraged Pursuit, and not only
Discouraged
that,
Pursuit,
that's also Earth locked as well.
which is nowadays not a terrible role, but
No, but there's better cards
that's
you get for that.
yeah, yeah. So
But like if
again,
it's like if I played Seal the Scorpion on someone and then gave them Infiltrator tools. If you
you
let
let go the Seal of the
seals
Scorpion.
and you get a 2-for-1. Like
Yeah.
it's how all the cards that interact with the trait get value off the trait, and Seal the Dragon is none of them are attachment based, so you can't lose value by playing it.
And also because for a long time Dragon only had because we're saying events and bonuses, but they also have their strongholds. Like
Oh yeah, because they
what is it? Iron Mountain Castle. The core box cares about attachments. Well, it's already
no,
an attachment.
that is Mountains Anvil Castle.
Mountains out.
Yeah.
All right, it's mac and cheese.
Yes.
So Mac only cares about attachments. Seal of the Dragon is an attachment. You
Yep.
slap a flying katana or something on it. You
Yep.
got your buff. Now with High House of Light, it's a monk. You can use it to use the box on it.
Yep. And once those effects are in place, it doesn't matter what happens to the seal.
Yeah, after they're done, you get rid of the seal. Who cares? I've done my stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's what they lose, and quite frankly, they deserve to lose it. If the seals had been more equitably supported, I think
which they totally haven't.
no. Like, do you care if Seal the Crane gives someone Duelist? They've gotten a lot of really good Duelist characters that just have the trait anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. Out of the Elemental cycle, though, they lose a bunch.
Yeah, the Elemental cycle is kind of murder. Like, to name a few, Hawk Tattoo, Hurricane Punch, which we mentioned earlier, Ancient Master, which we mentioned with the Crane,
Yep.
Void Fist, Sacred Sanctuary,
Mitsu
like,
1.
Mitsu 1. Like, this going away and having no effective replacements kind of kills the Monk deck.
I mean, and that basically kills Dragon, because that's really the only deck that they have at the moment. Hang on, let's take a look at the...
Yeah, let's take a look at the Dragon decks. So we've got our highest ranking Dragon.
Yep, and they are running Mitsu 1. No Ancient Masters, but there's Hurricane Punches, Void Fist. There's a Gaijin Customs that go away, the Talisman of the Sun that goes away. Hang on, let me do the neat thing you showed me. Yeah, like this deck is just completely gutted. It cannot exist. And oops, it was just the one Dragon deck. Yeah, there's just this deck, like any kind of monk-focused deck, just vanishes when rotation happens. Get back to... Which is why I put most of those cards as, like, basically having to go evergreen. Because I think... Oh, you only sent me the one Dragon deck.
Yeah, I was wondering if someone responding, because I don't see anything in chat or the Zoom meeting.
Oh, you can't see my screen anymore?
I do see your screen, I just don't see responses.
Okay. Yeah, no, like, when I said the only one deck common, is most of the other clans had 2 decks with them. Dragon only had 1.
Yeah, because in the ranking, it was the one it was the top one, or the only one in that step.
Yeah. But yeah.
Anyway.
That's why, like, at a minimum, Hawk Tattoo, Hurricane Punch, Void Fist, and Sacred Sanctuary, I think should go Evergreen just so that Dragon can continue to have a deck.
I
Uh,
I
I
agree on Hawk Tattoo and Hurricane Punch. Hawk Tattoo, especially if you just reprint it with the
with
errata that can only go in your own characters.
yes.
Void Fist, I have mixed feelings about because
So
um,
I think when Mitsu One goes away, and I don't think he should go Evergreen because he's too far above the curve, or at least he was. Nowadays, maybe less so. Um, but
he still
without,
does a lot.
he still does it. No, yeah, but I don't know if like I think the curve has moved and he's stayed put, so he's no longer so far above it. Um, but without the basically free recursion you get off of Mitsu,
Yeah,
Void Fist becomes less of a problem. I think.
yeah, you don't have to contend with 6 Void Fists anymore,
Right. Like you
or
basically don't have
possibly 9.
right because it goes on the bottom. And
No, because of Waved Dragon.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think like the monk cards aside from Ancient Master are fine, especially once you remove the power spike that Mitsu gave it.
But then you
Um,
have to question what remains.
well, I mean, they still have plenty of monks they can play.
Not from the deck we're seeing, but
Well, no, because
fair enough.
I think that deck is
More a good
relying
stuff deck.
is relying on Seal of the Dragon to
Make
make monks for those cards.
Gyokuni, Ratsugu,
Yeah,
hell, even the Investigator, and those are basically the only big characters the deck has.
yeah,
Investigator, Ratsugu, Yokuni, and Mitsu.
yep. No, but I think that's why you're not seeing a lot of monks in there is because they have Seal of the Dragon to generate that value. And
Yeah,
and I think, and this is going to be a little tangent here, but I'm entirely willing to admit I could be wrong. One of the reasons Stoke Insurrection is so busted is because so many people are just running good stuff decks.
which is fair. You want to run your best stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
but like, and I understand you play with the most competitive cards possible, but if people like, if this was actually a monk deck, I think Stoke Insurrection would be less good against it.
yeah, which going a bit further on the tangent, not a lot of clans have cards that interact specifically with in in clan themes. We have you've got the dragon stuff that works off stuff like monk and tattooed,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is supposed to generate synergy, which is being proxied by Seal to Dragon currently.
Yes. Yeah.
You see it in Unicorn. Unicorn has a little bit of it with Curved Blade. You've got Wave the Line, but it it's some to end the tension a bit. Uh, Stoke is so problematic because there is so little in-clan interaction with your own cards.
That's that's reasonable, I think. I guess the way I look at it is if all you're going to run are your best characters and you don't rely on deck synergy, then, I get to play your best characters. If you build a deck that focuses on synergies within the clan, then when I play Stoke or I do something like Kachiko, I will get far less value out of it because I don't have the supporting cards to make it better.
Which is fair, but that's kind of what I'm trying to argue is that there aren't really supporting cards.
That's fair. And I realize, like, and don't get me wrong, Stoke is busted as fuck. I'm not saying it's a fine card. I just think a lot of the problem people are experiencing are um, because they're running good stuff decks. But the
Yeah.
good news is we have another cycle plus probably another big box before rotation happens, and we could see some synergistic decks crop up instead of just good stuff decks.
Yeah, hopefully, like you don't need to do like taking dragon because we're on them now, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and they're losing so much of their
Losing everything.
yeah. Like if you make stuff that focus more on the monk trait, if you make stuff that maybe um like Niagasha, maybe do something like alchemist or hell with the Miyamoto, more
More
dragon
dueling.
clan dueling supports.
I would like to see some dueling stuff out of Dragon. Um, I
Because
know the Daisho was a problem from day one. Um,
I'll the Daisho problem is then that it was a unlimited
yeah,
thing. If it was a reaction, it would have been a totally different
yep.
card.
If it was even like twice per turn,
Yep.
give it a little extra. You can do it twice thing. Um, the other evergreen card, Master Alchemist, it does neat things. It doesn't do anything super busted. I doesn't see a whole lot of play right now. I don't think.
No, because the lower costed Shugenjas like Akasha Swordsmith and Doom Shugenja are just better.
Yeah, well, because Dragon's using them for the traits for Cloud the Mind and not necessarily for what it does. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier, where it's a 4 drop and its ability doesn't blow anything out, which is probably
Yep.
why it's not seeing play.
And also that Shugenja isn't an important trait in Dragon beyond Cloud to Mind.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
But anyway,
and Sacred Sanctuary, I think that can go evergreen. I think if you remove like Mitsu from the equation, Sacred Sanctuary, add Seal of the Dragon as well. If those go away, Sacred Sanctuary becomes a much more reasonable thing.
yeah, hell, even if it was only Sealed Dragon going away and not specifically Mitsu, because you still got the new Mitsu, which is a monk, a good
Yes.
body. Um, it would mean you can go into your conflict phase. You can look at your opponent, and you can just know these are the monks he has in play, or
Yep.
he has to place some kind of conflict monk, but he can't make his Yokuni or all this other
Yeah.
mad stuff
You
a
can
monk suddenly.
you can make your buys in Dynasty phase and play in your conflict phase and Dynasty phase more appropriately without having to worry about, oh, Yokuni's a monk now. I wish I saw that coming.
Yeah, and sometimes um, with big boards or with when a lot of attachments get play, you just miss stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Well, yeah, when a character has like 12 attachments on it, it's hard to
well, not
see.
even that. Like if you've got like 2 or 3 characters with a few attachments each, like 1 or 2, and you're trying to do your math, and uh, you miss that seal, and you attack, and it just feels bad. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Like I said, Seal is an issue. It needs to go away. I think you are correct. It's less Mitsu and more of a Seal of the Dragon going away. Sacred Sanctuary becomes a totally reasonable thing to deal with.
yep. So then we'll go on to Lion.
Lion. Um,
Lion is weird
it
because
is. Like, I don't think Legion of One matters all that much anymore because I don't see Lion doing towering exclusively anymore.
now, and in my opinion, and pretty good. I'm not a really good player. Towering has kind of fallen off a lot for more of the switch decks or the unrunning decks because
Mm-hmm.
they interact less with your opponents.
Yeah, so here's an interesting thing, right? Lion has been hot topic.
Terrible.
Well, I was going to say, like, recently, Lion has been kind of the front man boogeyman. With their honor run deck and all of the commanders that do everything and all the card draw they get. The most recent stat compilation that came out of the clan war, they have the worst win rate out of all the
Yeah,
clans.
yeah,
I
because when you sit down across from a line, you know what they're playing from their roll and from their first flop.
yeah.
People, I've I've maligned, I've talked about this often enough at the start of the year. Once people know how to play against the deck, its win rate will drop significantly because you know what happens uh, when you sit against it, you see the play pattern, and also uh, Scorpion and Crane got a lot more efficient in setting up those kills, like the noble sacrifices, the
Mm-hmm.
I can swing or something, and remove removing those characters can basically end the game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not a good deck, and
No, it's.
it's
I just think like to your point, the clan wars is basically all we have for like large scale events right now, besides the Discord League. And I think there's a lot of uh, really good talent that's playing in the clan war, and I think the really good players are what's driving Lions' win rate down.
yep, and
Because like you said, they know how to play around what the deck's trying to do.
yeah, and looking at the two decks that are currently in the top four of the Discord League season 27. One is a
It's Keeper of
Greek
Air.
special honor running deck.
Yeah, that's a Curlis deck, so I think only Curlis can run that correctly.
Well, Tomoya played it into top
Yes.
four and maybe beyond, depending on how his game went. So, but yeah, it's nothing like the tower decks. The
Yeah,
deck
this.
run by Hansen Den is slightly more of a tower deck, but as you can see, it's a lot of the stuff that makes the tower deck is gone. The amount of attachments is less. They're also more defensive. Finger of Jade, the Hawk Tattoo for only a singular move in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like it's interesting that the only cards either of these decks are losing that are exclusively Lion are the Gifted Tactician and two of Ujiaki. Everything
Yeah, and I
else.
give it.
Oh, go on.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, yeah, they lose an Akoma Reservist or oops, wrong way. Finger of Jade. I guess Hawk Tattoo. That feels really weird. What the hell?
Yeah,
Why is there a
it's
Hawk?
um
Oh, it's just for moving. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Um, like it. I think cycles 1 and 2 were definitely had a different line philosophy design in mind, which is why so many of these cards leaving don't matter.
Yeah.
Like the like most of the cards that are leaving that I think matter could probably go evergreen.
Well,
Maybe
a
not
Legion of One a Legion of One is going to be interesting because of the
the
upcoming cycle has to do with characters with no fate
yes
on
that
them.
can it that's going to depend entirely on if Lion is getting any dire characters.
Everyone should be.
Well,
It's how FFG does stuff,
yes,
even if it's only going to be a
but
tokens character.
I was going to say, but what I have heard is this cycle, Dire and the Maho mechanic are not going to be equally distributed amongst clans.
No, I'm pretty sure. Like I'm willing to say that Light is definitely going to get some dire stuff.
Oh, sure.
But I would be very surprised if Lion got Maho cards.
I mean that they're probably the ones least likely to do it. If anything, Phoenix should get the most.
Yeah, but anyway, Legion of One
That
could
could
come
that could come back. Yeah, that's true.
that
Depend.
could come back. Gifted Tactician is mostly used because he works because of the interaction with Centauro. Like
Yep.
you can
And
double dip your ingenuities.
that's the thing.
Ujaki, he's a character. He's fallen extremely out of favor
Which I
because
think
he's
is
just too.
it's expensive, but that's his ability. I think is a good like. I would pay 5 fate for that ability on a card, even if you only got it once.
Well, the thing with line often has been that getting and keeping that favor, which
Yeah,
has become a lot better with recent sets. But it might just be that he's become too expensive.
that's possible as well. I like looking around. There's not a lot of 5 cost characters that I've seen get played recently. Now that I'm like
No, and
thinking about it.
the line, quite a few of the line decks run expensive stuff, but that's mostly Tuturi, Master Edition, and such because of and the Careless deck Ujaki because of Forebear's Echo and Spirit Color.
Yeah, so they're cheating them into play. They're not actually paying for them.
Well, if they have to fade, they'll probably do it, but they don't have to.
They had that option, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think Lions HMT leaving is going to matter at all because
Mm,
they've gotten significantly better strongholds
yeah, it's quite sad.
recently. Yeah, because
The
HMT Lion was the epitome of I high roll or I die.
Yep was even worse than Unicorn.
Yeah, well, because Unicorn can turn it on real easy. You have to invest a lot for Lion to turn on HMT.
Yeah, which is funny with how relevant winning by 5 is, or
Mm-hmm.
how little that actually happens.
Yeah, I that I guess hindsight being what it is, that probably should have been win by 3, maybe 4. 3 feels like it'd be on more often.
I'm not sure. Like you could you could have done it like Unicorn, but instead of Cavalry, have more participating glory.
Oh, yeah, actually, that would have been interesting. But, I guess you could say HMT's or Lion's HMT has been replaced by their Claim Sword, which just does it automatically. But that's
Yeah,
never going to get played either.
I've tried it.
I have to.
Uh,
It doesn't work.
it does, but the champions don't.
Yeah, oh, because your choices are Toturi or
Matsusuku
Suko.
and Totori.
Yeah,
And while Suko is very very cool, being a commander, having a actually a pretty strong ability, it's not a active ability. Like it's a reaction to winning a conflict.
yeah. And
And
chances are, if you're going to win with that kind of military force, you're breaking anyway.
yeah, so the funny thing is, if Dragon uh, gets a champion sword, it's actually pretty scary because they got a lot of champions.
Mm-hmm. And they have a lot of cheap champions too.
Yeah.
They've got like 2 and 3 cost ones.
Yep.
I'm sure they'll get one eventually. I'm a little sad that all the clan swords won't be in the game at the same time.
Yeah. Which seems oversight to me because it a bit will go to Phoenix
Yep,
and theirs will rotate out, which I think is a mistake.
it is. I remember
Maybe
in
maybe
the
not in a balanced way, but in a just in a theme way.
yeah. Well, it's because we talk about L5R on the Discord and whatever in a competitive sense, um, but if people just want to play it for fun, you know, why wouldn't or why shouldn't? I mean, granted, if they're playing at the kitchen table, they can do whatever the hell they like. But I remember in the old game, like the clan swords were a big deal, and everyone got them at the same time. And when a block rotated out, experienced versions came out, or armors came out, or standards came out to replace them. So everyone had their clan's identifying thing in play at the same time.
Yeah, I would like to see the clan swords at one point be in a evergreen product like a premium pack.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. Um, and that might not be. I mean, I don't know. At the rate they've been releasing swords, we've seen what, three of them, right?
Crane, Lion, Phoenix. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've seen three.
we've seen three of them in 5 cycles. So I guess if we get to cycle 12, we can talk about an evergreen product for all the clan
No,
swords.
no, it's four. Because the next one is five, right?
Yeah. Yes, you're right. Okay, so no, maybe within like a year or two, we can get a clan sword evergreen product.
Either way, just as a general statement.
Yes, it feels bad. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter for the game. It just feels bad.
yeah.
Phoenix
As
is
a
losing. Oh, go on.
Yeah, as a jumping off point, a other interesting card from Lion is the My Ancestor Strength, which is used a lot more in Phoenix than it is in Lion.
Yes, and that's because Phoenix has more characters with more balanced stats that are bigger. Lion tends to lean primarily to military, and
That's actually wrong because
really,
the most important target for Phoenix is Fushisho, which is a 6/6.
yes.
Lion has the Champions of Yomi, which is also a
Oh,
6/6.
it is a 6/6. That's true.
Yes, the
Ooh.
important difference is Phoenix has one cost Shugenjas.
Oh yeah, I guess Tireless Soden Senzo's a 2.
Yeah, and
That's
Tireless
actually a
Senso
really good point.
and Medium of the Living Soul is also two. Lion has two amazing spells, My Ancestor Strength and Forebear's Echoes, and My Ancestor Strength isn't used in Lion because Lion has very few Shugenja. And they're also all kinda expensive for what they do, except for Spirit Color.
Yeah, and there was Spirit Caller Prodigy that just came out.
Yep.
I think that card's being slept on, but it just came out, so that could be a wrong statement too. No, I actually hadn't considered Champions of Yomi being the same stats. I guess it is just there's no cheap Shugenja for Lion that
Yeah,
you could that you
because
can just throw away.
yeah, because let's say if you're a dreamer or no, you know the fire tensei initiates one cost 002 glory.
Uh huh.
The probably the worst Shugenja Phoenix has at one.
Yeah, I can get behind that statement.
Minus for one fate, minus says the strength turns your one fate 0/0 into a 6/6,
Yeah.
and for every fate cost, your fate your character becomes bigger. They also have more base stats, which makes the buff from my ancestor strength worse
Yep.
because the difference is a lot smaller.
Unless you're the Ethereal Dreamer whose passive text counts on top.
Is a bonus, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Because
a
mind's strength, because that's a good point. Mind's strength is base.
yep.
Yeah,
No, it really does come down to the Shugenja cost. I had not considered that. But since we're talking about Shugenja, let's go to
let's go
Phoenix.
to Phoenix. Yeah,
um, they lose quite a bit of cards here, and I don't think Embrace the Void really matters because no one runs that. It's just on there to keep it away from 5 fires.
which is fair.
Absolutely. Um, 5 fires is kind of a big hit. Haughty Magistrate is also a significant hit for certain decks. And we've seen those kinds of decks become far more prominent with the change to Cube Misawa that happened, I guess,
So
last year.
looking at the deck from which is appropriately called Test by Mind Desire,
Oops.
I think it is actually after the Lion one, the second deck that actually uses card from the Imperial Cycle in their Dynasty deck.
Prodigy, yeah, Prodigy of the Waves is,
Yeah,
and Censure and Consumed by Five Fighters.
no. Well, I meant specifically the Dynasty because
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
very few
Few decks.
Dynasty
Yeah,
Imperial Cycle cards.
no, that's actually
Very
a good
few.
point. Like, I I guess there was very little in the Imperial Cycle, but I guess it also falls in line with how it was, I guess, designed like right next to core, and things were just designed differently.
Yeah, and what's
Yeah.
come out since then.
Yes, and because all games eventually suffer from power creep,
Yep.
and I think things that came out from core are hitting that creeped out point.
Yeah, some stuff is. But anyway, so what would Phoenix lose from Imperial on the list we have? Embrace the Void. It's
Not
fine.
really, yeah.
It's a it's
Shrine Maiden
Shrine Maiden.
and Consumed are probably the biggest hits. I don't see Prodigy getting used as much as he was in the past. And Asako Suki is maybe a one or a two of in the decks that she actually shows up in, and that's not that many.
Yeah, it's
Out,
kind of funny because either these cards are degenerate, like Thunder District and Master Kishitoshi,
or they're meh.
uh, or they're meh and fine role players. Like Prodigy of the Waves is a good character
Yep.
because you don't have to claim the ring yourself, which is pretty annoying because you can just do a water conflict and be fine.
Yep. Um, he's got good stats and a good glory to supplement that with. I don't know. It's just I think that's at the core what the issues with how the game was initially designed is. It feels like it's either absolutely degenerate or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and granted, I'll give it that the core design and the first two cycles very much suffered from some playtesting with old mentality. As I know, all 5 hour players did playtesting for this as they were invited,
Hmm.
and the transition to the new rules is noticeable.
Yeah. No, I,
And
I I don't want to
that
go off into the core playtest, but it feels like the bid dial was a huge miss in both design and playtest for people catching what the game would turn into with how that kind of mechanic was designed.
yeah, that's a conversation
Yeah, like
for another
that's
time.
yeah. Um, but over,
So yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say overall they lose Consumed by Five Fires because I think that is still the RL choice.
Yeah,
Um, but besides that, losing Ethereal Dreamer, uh, the Prodigy of the Waves, I don't think is like that big of a hit anymore.
Ethereal Dreamer is a very fine character.
Yes.
It's
Um,
it's fine. It's got it's a 1 cost 1/1 which gives bonus stats in a
yep.
specific conflict.
That's a card that
Okay,
I think would be fine as Evergreen. I think Feral Ningyo would also be fine as Evergreen.
no.
Um, and same thing with Isawa Lorna.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Iona exactly because her ability is pretty good, except then that it's only targets non-uniques.
Yep. Like I think her ability is fine. I think the
Yeah,
restriction on air spells is enough to not make her super degenerate. Um, and the fact that she can only hit non-uniques also helps keep it in line a little bit.
Yeah, and that she isn't an amazing character.
Yeah,
Like she's a
and
two cost two dash.
yeah, she can only be in half the conflicts. So
Yep.
like it's a fine card. It I don't know. Like I don't think outside of the consumed by five fires, Phoenix gets pinged all that much for their quote unquote meta deck.
It's probably the biggest hit, but the question is it bad that Consume by Fiverr is going to leave the meta at some point?
I
Because
think I think
it ex-
it's
go
good that
ahead.
it's leaving, but only because of how it was templated. If consumed by five fires targeted the character, and you could do whatever reactions or interrupts to that, it would be a lot more fine. But
Right, because
the
it's
fact that there is no workaround, there's no protection against it, makes it too much.
right because stuff like above question, the plate from Crab or Finger Jade don't work
Yep,
because the character doesn't get targeted.
it's the
Of
fate.
course, cancels in hand do work. Like it's the same problem with Way of the Crab. Like we've all been blown out by Way of the Crab at one point.
Yep, I've been blown out multiple times by way of the crab because I keep forgetting it exists.
Yep. But besides that,
It's the weird templating, right? Because way of the crab, there's no targeting involved in that. Despite the
yep,
fact that both players are picking a character, it's not targeting.
yep. But let's say uh, consume goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a bad thing? Even if it had the new plating, like you said, the target characters, because it existing means it somewhat suppresses uh, tower decks
So
in some, but the decks that tower are Crab, Line, somewhat, and Crane, and
I
two of those have ways to keep characters in play.
I will freely admit. Well, actually, even the dragon deck
Oh
towers a
yeah,
bunch now. Um, I absolutely loathe tower decks um, because how they it's ridiculous how much stuff one character can hold. Um, I think tower decks would be a lot less toxic if the restricted keyword was more liberally applied to stuff. Um, and I think the prevalence of how long characters can live flies in the face of the concept of mono no aware because they live forever. So there needs to be something in the game that helps keep that in check. I think the current consumed by five fires is a little bit too much. Um, but I do think there needs to be some kind of like tower shortening card. Even,
Like
even, even, even if you change like consumed by five fires to remove up to five fate from up to two characters, that way you can't wipe out an entire board, but you can still narrow someone's board and still punish a tower.
yeah,
But I also
go
hate
go well.
I hate tower decks, so I will go on and on about this all day long.
Yeah, well, I come from the opposite perspective, where I played the tower decks and the much hated line tower deck, uh, and I see the other side of the coin, where I see completely getting blown out by uh, experienced players.
I mean, so like as a hypothetical, if there was a card like Consumed by Five Fires Maybe it didn't hit an entire board, restricted to one, two characters, whatever, but targeted the characters. Would you be okay with that?
Oh yeah, totally. Like I'm okay with consumed by firefighters
And
existing.
and I also think Finger of Jade, which we'll get to eventually, should go evergreen as well because
Yes.
there need to be ways to protect characters. But if there was a Nuka Tower card that you could stop by Finger of Jade, would that card be okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said,
Like
I don't think the effect is bad for the game. I think the way it was implemented is what is the problem.
yeah, and it also to bring it back to like events from a year ago or slightly longer. The Dragon Good Stuff deck, which didn't even have a lot of tower potential, was also just 5 or 6 fating
Yep.
Mitsu, just so he stayed alive forever.
Yep.
Like you don't even need to have tower decks to just over fate on your most important characters, so you can ignore the void ring and have them in play for
Yeah.
effectively the entirety of the game.
I have my own issues with that because if you're going to implement a mechanic that says, hey, things come and go, characters should every turn someone should die, a new person comes in, whatever. Um, I take issues with the fact that a a really easy to adopt playstyle completely negates an entire design philosophy for the game.
I see that. Like it mono Awari still happens, but it doesn't happen in the way it's intended.
No.
So yeah, like I don't. So to bring it back to what we're actually supposed to talk about,
Right?
of the cards leaving, um, of the big hitters, Master of Kishitoshi, Gunja District, and Heroes No Curses, all Phoenix cards that are banned
Yes.
with riddance.
Yeah. Like
Embrace.
like the reason I don't think it's necessary to talk about the banned cards in red is because you can't play them, so you're not going to miss them.
There's there's one banned card that I think is really stupid. It's on there, but it's from Core, and then you probably know which one I mean.
Is that Best Boy Liar?
Yeah,
Yeah, they should have banned the Alibi Artist. But you can't ban the Alibi Artist because if you ban the Alibi Artist, you will never sell another Scorpion Clan pack ever.
oh well. Anyway, Embrace the Void gone. It's fine. It's
Yeah. If not for Consumed by Five Fires, I might want to see that stick around. But at the same time, it's fine if it goes away.
to be fair, you kind of have a better card in Path of Man because it nets you two, and it's a surprise.
Yes, but
But
we have to win by five.
yeah,
And turns out that's a problem.
yeah, we talked about it with Lion. But yeah, and out of the other cards, they've got some solid cards. Uh, Prodigy's Way, Pharaoh Ninja, Isao Uno, and Evil Dreamer. Suki, I'm mad on, but um,
I
she is a
just I just
scholar. She does with the word watering.
I just like the
She's
card.
fine.
It's fine. Like
Yeah,
it's not a busted card. It's fine.
yeah.
And that's
And
probably why she doesn't see point.
Shrine Maiden, I'm not sure on because it's a very cheap conflict character that draws you potentially free cards. And um,
So
while Kunin Sawa has been routed, uh, it used to mean she always gave you free cards.
yeah, I think I think Shrine Maiden was designed around the idea that people wouldn't just bid the same thing turn after turn after turn.
Yeah,
And Phoenix could be like, hey, I bid two, but I still draw five cards. But I played a card to draw five cards, only drew four cards. Um, and instead now it's very much like I bid five, you bid five. Okay, I'll play a Shrine Maiden. I'll draw an extra two cards usually.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so we can write it off with um, missed expectations on the
Yeah,
draw mechanic.
yeah, that's probably reasonable. Um, One thing I do want to kind of point out, so very few of the provinces and strongholds from these cycles matter. Like every clan got one, and except for Magistrate Station, I don't think any of them really matter. And the
Sacred Sanctuary. There
Sacred,
too.
yeah,
Sacred.
Sacred Sanctuary as well. And the only box that matters is Unicorn's HMT.
And we only had two boxes in these two cycles. To be fair,
Is it only two? Yeah, I guess it is only
it,
two.
it-
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
you're right, you're right. But it just feels weird that I guess it's just bad. I don't want to say bad design, but
No, it's fair to say.
on how these things works. Like Teaching of the Elements, I don't even remember what that card does, and I tend to remember a lot of cards.
Teaching of the elements makes your province strength higher depending on how many rings you have claimed.
See if it's garbage.
Yeah. Same with Web of Life. Web of Life increases your province strength uh,
No,
times the
its province strength is two times your bid dial. I
yes.
think. Yeah, but I mean, like it's I don't know. I guess it's just a side note on like how big of a miss province is.
Well, it's not a miss because in the elemental cycle
Yes, I mean the neutral
we have province.
provinces. There are two that matter out of that.
Yeah, I've let's save that conversation till the end
Yes,
because
yeah, that's because that's at the end. So Scorpion, interestingly enough, is largely untouched by rotation.
of the reason that four
Everything is
cards,
restricted.
free, well, not everything, free cards are restricted.
Yes,
Cunning
but
Magistrate, which is fair. Okay,
it.
worse than Death, which is fair, and Mark of Shame, which is
Yep,
fair.
yep.
Like,
And all those cards are less good than Forged Edict or City of the Open Hand, so they don't get played anymore.
yeah, which
Uh,
tells a lot about how good City of the Open Hand and Forged Edict are.
yes, too good. Both those cards should probably be banned. The game would be much better for it. Um,
Um,
Kachiko has been replaced by her new version. I don't think you will see anyone run the old version of Kachiko. Um, just the new one is so much better.
yeah, it's a shame because I like old Kachiko,
Yes.
but she didn't fit in what the Scorpion deck wanted to, and because
No.
old Kachiko it was more of a conquest card.
Yes. And again, I think that's design expectations versus reality. Um,
I mean, she did send people away so you could get unopposed, I
yes,
guess.
but that was like incidental. Like I think you can look at her ability as clearly get out the way. We're gonna break. However,
Yeah,
her ability was only ever used to get out the way. I want you to lose one more point of honor here.
yeah.
Fawning Diplomat doesn't see a whole lot of play. It's a random one of.
Um,
She saw a little bit of a resurgence with Ibuki for stealing the favor in Dynasty phase if you didn't have it. And
let's see. Let's see. Uh, yep. Not even in there
yeah.
in the.
Oh, we should look at the Scorpion decks. Like I doubt we're going to see any of the cards here. Uh, Nothing, and Goblin Sneak, but that's a neutral card, and the Censors, which are a neutral card, and there's the random one Kachiko, probably because they haven't done a resubmit for it yet. And there was only one Scorpion deck on there, so okay. Um,
I understand why this deck, the by Demigod runs the Kachiko,
oh,
because
absolutely. It's
Kyuden Bayushi with Soul Beyond Reproach, so you get maximum value out of
yep,
Kachiko.
yep, and
But because she's a random one-off, which is fine.
yeah, like you can just replace that with a third Censure, and replace any one of these cards with Kachiko, and the deck probably functions exactly the same. Um, Oops, wrong way. Um, But yeah, like everything Scorpion would like, even backhanded compliment now is not being played as much as before because Scorpion's basically split into the die-hard Dishonor loyalists that are still running it and the people that are just abusing Stoke Insurrection. And at that
Yeah,
point, that's a conquest deck, and you don't need the backhanded compliments.
yeah. I will say I think from what I've been seeing in the Clan War and the Discord leagues, is the backhanded compliment isn't often used because of the open deck lists.
Yeah, that's actually reasonable as well.
So take the lack of backhanded compliment or the dishonor deck at that. Like it has suffered um, in its meta position compared to half a year or a year ago, where
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion all it did was dishonor because it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play the game in a way that no one else was playing because most other clans can't operate on the honor dishonor axis as much as Scorpion did,
Which is
which is fine.
uh,
It's just
yeah,
I say it's fine. It's thematically
it's
solid.
it's hard to balance,
Yes.
and
Uh,
that's the problem why Scorpion has so many cards on the restricted list is that when your main mechanic is uh, dishonoring people, which reduces their stats, which reduces their honor total when they leave play, it just does a lot.
yeah. It it accomplishes it's a debuff and at the same time it's actively advancing your win condition.
Yeah,
And you know, Scorpion's my favorite clan. I kind of hate that I have so little to say about it, but none of these matter. Oops, I forgot. Hidden Moon Dojo is a super banned card.
yep.
Um,
And also, uh, there are a few that matter, like
Sad-
Sadako,
Sadako
but
is, but see, like
but
I even have issues with the way Sadako functions. Like I don't think she should have three glory. I think she should have text that says when she's dishonored, add three to her stats and give her like zero glory.
yeah, because then you can't just soul beyond reproach her
Yep,
after standing her, so
yep.
you gain the honor at
You
the end
gain
of
the
turn.
honor. You can't steal favor with her. There's no reason why a a super powerful named ninja should be so well known she can steal the favor.
Yeah, I think that's a unfortunate choice in how to, because her cortex is pretty simple. It's very straightforward. It does have the unfortunate thing that she works very good both ways,
Yeah.
and that sometimes when playing against the Kyuden Byushi deck, your best option is honoring your opponent's Sadako
Yes, I've done that a
with a
number of
fi-
times.
yes,
It's hilarious.
it. I've had it at Kotais where people had to look up that you can actually use the firing to honor your opponent's characters. Uh, it's very it's a very solid strategy against the Kyuden deck
Mm-hmm.
because they need dishonored characters to straighten.
Yep. No, I just
But it just kind of feels bad that you're using your conflict and your ring activations.
to make your opponent quote unquote better.
Yeah,
You know, like she does matter. She does show up in a lot of decks, but at the same time, I don't know that the decks suffer all that much if she goes away.
she's a big hitter. She punches well above her weight, but if she's gone, it's not a tremendous loss.
No, you could just, and this is something that happens now. Just run conflict Miyako instead. She's not as beefy stat wise, but it's still a free stand if you do it on a bowed character.
Yeah, the only mention on that is that you can use Elegant Tessin on Sadako.
That is true. So you can get more stands out of Sadako that way. But like I said, I don't think it's hugely detrimental to the deck. I think it would function okay without her.
Yeah. Uh, so don't think there's much else to say about Scorpion. Like they've got
They have a lot of fun cards. Like I love Heartless Intimidator, and I really like this Okujin, but they just don't see play. Even if you want to build the most toxic mill deck you can, you, it doesn't accomplish anything.
or it doesn't accomplish enough compared to other cards you have available.
Yeah, they have fun cards. Deceptive Offer is a very thematic card, but because it gives your opponent a choice, it doesn't matter. Maze of Illusion is just a random mini game, and I don't think those have a place in L5R.
Yeah, that should just go away.
Yeah. There were a lot of neat things that they could have done, or that they tried to do, but just never went anywhere. So Unicorn.
Unicorn. Well, this is gonna be a lot.
There's quite a bit to unpack, and the funny thing is, most of it I don't think is actually for Unicorn. I think Talisman of the Sun and Gaijin Customs going away is a huge hit to a bunch of other clans.
Well, let's do it like this. Let's first discuss what would be leaving of Unicorn, which is detrimental not to Unicorn but to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, Talisman of the Sun is used in decks from Lion, Crane, Crab, anything that would consider Unicorn and has Keeper
Yeah.
will consider Talisman of the Sun because it's a very good effect. It's only a single fate for +1/+1, and its ability is very good.
Yep.
Um, I'm fine with Talisman leaving because there are now other one-off events that do the same effect with a quote-unquote fairer cost.
Um, what else moves on defense?
Unicorn has one or two events. Crab has one or two events.
Oh yeah, I guess Crab does have. Oh yeah, yeah. Nova Terrain and whatever the Crab one is. That's 4 influence, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Like that's valid. Um, I don't think there's anything else out of Imperial.
Gaijin Customs. Gaijin Customs is used a lot in other clans.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I meant besides those two. Because Chasing the Sun is used in the Nova Terrain meme decks.
It's also used in a wonderful meme slash jank deck in Dragon with
Yes,
Togashi
Ichi.
Ichi to
So
destroy 3 or 4 provinces in a turn.
yes, one of my so we were fortunate enough in the Dallas Fort Worth area to sneak in a Kotai right before COVID happened, and the top four Dragon player was a local to me, and he was playing the Chasing the Sun Ichi meme deck, and
Wonderful.
it was great. I've never been more proud in my life. Um, Out of Imperial, I the only thing Unicorn really loses is Yurt.
Which is a big hit because Unicorn has very little honor gain.
Uh, that's played. Yes, their battle maidens can tend to honor themselves.
Uh, I mean actual honor gain.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Um, yeah, no. At the same time, though, they lose Unleash the Jinn at rotation as well.
Yeah, which is where most of that honor is going to.
Yeah, and now that Scorpion is somewhat off of dishonor, it might not be a death sentence.
No, it's not great because you can definitely overextend yourself pretty
Yes.
easily. Because Unleash the Jin's free honor hit, Assassination is a free honor hit, and Unicorn doesn't like defending.
Nope. And they're not super good at it either, which feels weird because there's no reason why they shouldn't be. But most of their stuff gets better on attack. Um, I don't think out of Elemental any non-Unicorn clans are losing anything. Unicorn also loses Shiotomi Encampment, which is a huge hit.
Yeah, because we've mentioned with Crane the ability for free stands. Now
Mm-hmm.
Shiotomi needs you to win a military conflict first, uh, which varies in difficulty.
It always feels doable when it
Yeah.
starts. Sometimes it stumbles a little bit. Um, but if HMT goes away, and I think that that is a box that should go evergreen because Unicorn doesn't have any other I would consider strong playable boxes. Um, but if HMT goes away, does Shiotomi Encampment matter anymore?
Well, yes, because it's a stand. It's the Shiotomi Encampment in a vacuum is still a good card. It it makes HMT better because you get that stand for your extra
Mm-hmm.
conflicts, which makes Shiotomi Encampment better because it supports that playstyle.
Yeah,
They synergize really well.
I ask because out of all the clans, I play Unicorn the least, and
It's still a good card. Totally worth playing, even if you didn't have HMT,
mm-hmm.
because then you have a less aggressive playstyle because you have less attacks in the turn, which would make you more enticed to defend because you're able to stand yourself.
Yeah, the one counterpoint I would raise as a hypothetical thing, it feels like the characters that Unicorn has that are best at defending or have like assuming HMT goes away, you stand to defend. If you're going to defend politically, um, it seems like their best characters aren't cavalry though.
No, it's uh, Unicorn is kind of pigeonholed into the cavalry deck because
Mm-hmm.
of HMT and the encampments and cavalry reserves, and cavalry reserves is a topic on its own.
Most cards that cheat the economy are a topic of their own.
Yeah. So because of key cards, Unicorn is pigeonholed into running as many cavalry as they can, and supplement that with extremely good non-cavalry ones,
Mm-hmm.
like the Unicorn decks we have by fan favorite and um,
Tab over to those real quick.
I'm not sure who the other one is because I don't see a name.
Nope, that one is yeah, Five Rings DB. That's gross. Um,
Anyway,
yes.
um, the only really non-cavalry we see in both of these lists is 3 copies of Waystation Trader in one deck. Oh, and this deck is also running Ichirime. Interesting.
I mean, it's kind of attachment control, right? Uh,
I'm wondering. Uh,
she is not Cav. And that is the only.
no, no, no. I'm because there's a funny little interaction. Because Unicorn have a character from Clan War they can give to their opponents,
Okay.
which makes them the controller, and you can use Remake to move attachment from your opponent onto that character.
Oh, I like that. That's so stupid, but I like that.
I mean, those are the kinds of things I think of in
Oh,
deck building.
that's brilliant. I love it. Huh. Okay. I've learned something.
Yeah, and also that character supports that other weird character that bows a if you control a non-unicorn
Uh,
and a unicorn character.
yeah, you pick two, a unicorn and non-unicorn controlled by the same player, and straighten one, bow the other.
Yeah, uh, with that you if you give that character to your opponent, you can use him to bow your opponent's characters.
You know what? That also makes Seal the Unicorn relevant.
Yeah, it's just a shame that
It's
Remay and the other character are kind of bad because Remay is a 2 cost 1/1.
yeah,
But anyway,
yeah.
um,
We're going down a different hole, but I will get lost in there.
anyway,
Um,
that just points out that out of these two decks, uh, of eight of 80 dynasty cards, a whole bunch of characters, only 6 of them are non-cavalry.
yeah, yeah. No, I think. I mean, I don't think Hunsucker's in the chat anymore because we've been at this for quite some time. I'm sure he got bored. Um, but Unicorn, like when rotation happens, if they don't have a replacement for HMT and Shiotomi Encampment, um, they are probably just as gutted as Dragon is.
Maybe even more, because
Yeah,
a stronghold is a big deal.
yeah, it is.
Because Unicorn will either need something to bring them into a zero Chinju deck that's workable and competitive.
They need a card like Doji Diplomat, some way to be
They have
more.
they have ESG Farseer. They have
Yeah, but see that goes back to they're paying two or three fate. I think she's three fate.
She's too expensive.
Yeah, it's too expensive for the Doji Diplomat is zero.
Yeah.
Um, but I think a card like that could make
But
Shiro Shinjo better.
from what I've seen and with my own experiences from some other people that have tried Shiro Shinjo, the problem isn't necessarily in flipping the provinces, especially now with eminent provinces
Hmm.
being a thing. It's what do you spend the fate on?
Yep, you can have all the money in the world, but that's all the money is not really going to help Unicorn win political conflicts.
I mean, it can because Unicorn has some actually good political characters like Shahai, Dario, and a few other things. But the rest of the deck doesn't support it.
Hmm.
Like they're they're so military focused on their conflict side, on their dynasty side. Like the Shiritomi encampment wants you to win a military conflict.
Now they do have
Uh,
captive audience to quote unquote help with that, but then that goes back into the honor bleed problem that they can't fix anymore because they don't have year.
Unicorn have been getting some uh, courtiers and merchants, which apparently is has become
A
uh,
sub theme.
a sub theme for multiple clans. So there might be something um, in the works for that,
Possibly.
but with the what we know of the cards uh, we have and coming up,
Yeah, was it the Nimble Noyan just looks like it's more hey,
it's more of the same.
yeah, it's more aggressive military. Go.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with Unicorn now. They have one really good deck, um, but most of the clans we've talked about now can do 2 or 3 competitive decks.
Yeah.
I I can easily say that. Like Crab can do a few different things, Green can do a few different things.
Yeah.
Dragon, I'm not so
Dragon
sure about
Dragon
because
might be the outlier. I think they're stuck on the High House of Light, High Five deck being the best they have access to right now.
Line is spoiled now because they finally reached a point where they can build multiple decks and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion can go Dishonor route. They've also got a very neat aggressive deck out of Kinobushi with a lot of the efficient two casters and lower
Yeah,
in this good
I
phase.
I think Scorpion is riding the Conquest deck exclusively on the back of Stoke Insurrection.
Well, I drafted or sketched out a Scorpion Conquest deck before I knew Stoke was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you got something pretty good there because you got a lot of cheap characters that are efficient stat wise, like the Yogo Outcast. That's a free for two. So Dako. You've got the Shinobi from this cycle with Rally that becomes
Mm-hmm.
a 4/2.
Yep.
Like you've got a lot of efficient characters in the deck.
Yep.
Problem
Oh, go on.
problem with that is the aggressive decks like Unicorn want extra conflicts, and the only way Scorpion can do that is with the Earthroll card,
Yes.
which
Suffer.
is go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's suffer the consequences.
Yeah, which is a good card, uh, but it's two fate. It costs you conflict slots. It forces you into Earthroll. All these restrictions the HMT Strongholds doesn't have.
Yeah, and um, like that's basically like Unicorn can only do the one thing right now. They can do some interesting side things, but from a competitive standpoint, there's no. They have no alternative. They have to go HMT. They have to just
Yeah,
break a
it
province or two every turn.
yeah, it's this deck with minor variations depending on meta or personal style, but it's all depressingly the same.
Yes. Um, so yeah, I think Unicorn and Dragon are basically tied for being in the worst spot.
In my opinion, Unicorn is worse off because I think losing a stronghold like that uh, is a very big blow.
Yeah, that's probably very accurate. Um, the neutral cards, uh, surprisingly, almost none of them matter.
And yes, so let's discuss the provinces on their own. So
Yeah, the provinces are a separate issue, but like as far as conflict and dynasty goes, the only ones that matter are the ones that should also be in the game perpetually.
yeah, Finger of Jade is a attachment that protects your character and does nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that should perpetually exist as an option for anyone.
If not that specific card, a card very much like it. Like
Yeah,
there should just be a one fate pre-play this protect my dude.
yeah. And it's a one-off. It's a one-off effect because you have to sacrifice the Finger of Jade.
Yep.
It's not like it perpetually protects it. It's something that should exist as an option if something becomes dominant.
Mm-hmm. I think the Goblin Sneak, it's a fine card.
I don't like Goblin Sneak because of other cards.
That's fair. I personally like it because it does it can punish people for mismanaging fate.
I think Goblin Sneak does too much against people with less experience, and it doesn't do enough against people that take care of it.
That's probably fair. That's probably a really good
And
evaluation for it.
and also I don't like how it interacts with a few other cards like Shushiro Miyako and with a Legion of One.
Oh, what, you don't like a single goblin turning into 7 military force?
No,
That's okay.
I mean that's fine. I don't like it. If you, if it's something I had hoped Tyler wouldn't do, and that's using your opponent's resources against them in a game where resource management is probably the most important thing you do.
Yeah, I think like the first step in becoming like a good competitive player is managing your hand and managing your fate.
Yeah, it's something you keep on learning with cards coming out and meta evolving. I need this much fate for my characters. How much do I put on them? Can I expect to defend Void Ring?
Mm-hmm.
I need this much fate for my cards, and cards like Goblin Sneak, Assassinate, and the most recent one, Stoke Insurrection, uh, mess with that in a big way, um, which I won't um, give a hard opinion on competitively because I don't get in those top brackets.
Mm-hmm.
But for people who play this game sporadically, they go to their local events, they go to their kotais. These are terrible cards to play against.
Yeah, because
But
I do agree that it is all the cards you mentioned. If you don't have the experience to play around them, they do very much feel unfair. And I don't know exactly how much play around there is for cards like Stoke Insurrection. Um, but no, like that is a valid point that if you're new to the game, it's those cards can feel like, well, I can't do anything about this.
and especially when some of them are uh, very much efficient, like calling in favors is a very efficient card because you the one fate is its um, biggest point. The dishonoring is actually good with Kunobushi becoming a meta deck,
Yeah,
and you're taking your opponent's cards. You're not actually going down in cards.
yeah. Um, the bad feels portion is actually really fun. I remember when I first started playing uh, this version of L5R, being so incredibly upset about Lion's Pride Brawler because it very much felt like it was one of those cards I can't do anything about, especially in core, because either Lion had uh, Bonsai's, Way of Lions, or their box to just go above and beyond whatever I could. And I remember
Yeah,
my card inspiring so much anger in me.
it's
And that,
inspired anger in a lot of people,
and
and
now,
it
and
was
now it's like, oh look, it's Lion's Pride Brawler. I can deal with this, or I can plan around it. It's fine.
yeah. I remember the days Lion Spreadler was the best card in line.
The actual Lion Clan champion.
Yep. But yeah, it's yeah that using your opponent's resources against them in this kind of game just feels very bad.
That is a fair point. And so in old L5R, I played Shadowlands, and so I want to keep as many Shadowlands cards in the game as possible because I have this dumb dream of playing Shadowlands in this game again.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm fine with like I'm fine with goblins and Onis and all these
I'm not sure,
cards
but
in
I'm
the
saying
game.
like
Like
that might be why like I'm super okay with this card existing. Is because it was like it's the toe in the water of the Shadowlands.
yeah,
Um, I think Censure needs to be in the game.
yeah. For the
I,
same reason, Finger of
yeah,
Death needs to
I
stay in.
I think that card single-handedly makes the favor can make the favor matter for every clan. if they choose
Yeah,
to run it. Otherwise, the favor just turns into, well, okay, you have a military favor, I'll play a flying katana, and it's fine.
yeah, because that's something that has been mentioned on the Discord, at least, is that um, once Imperial Cycle rotates, there is nothing or almost nothing that interacts with the favor anymore.
Yep, and
And
and you could actually argue right now the only thing that interacts with the favor that sees play is censure and occasionally Ujiaki.
yeah, like random cards.
Yeah, I mean you'll never see Sake House Confident played.
And I think that's a shame that because not to bring it back to old 5R too much is that the favor mattered in old 5R very much. It was
So much more. It really did.
yeah, and here it's uh, just a stat boost.
Yeah, it's
It's
also
quite
an inconsequential stat boost unless you're doing a poke. Like it matters so little when it has the name of Imperial Favor. This is the favor of the Emperor, and 95% of the times, like it doesn't matter. It's fine.
yeah, because the most relevant thing you're using it for if you don't have the stats or the anything that interacts with the favor is your attack um, with a character. It
Yeah.
might get bout, and you still count as attacking because you got the stats.
Yep. I think the most it gets used by people that aren't running Censure is making a Phoenix player defend Senpuku Saido.
Yeah, because it still counts.
Yeah. Otherwise, like it does not matter enough in the game, and
Yeah,
that's sad. Um, Waning Hostilities is a card I see played periodically. Um, that's why it's on there. Um, I'm actually 100% indifferent to that card.
I
Like,
think it's fine existing. It's just it doesn't do enough.
yeah,
Like it doesn't do the what it wants to do is be a
it wants to slow the
protect.
game down, but it doesn't
Yeah,
do it enough.
yeah. You want it to be protection against aggro decks, but because you have to pre-play it. I think like I might I actually have to look this up. What is its exact taxes? Yeah, after the conflict phase begins.
Yeah,
So so if you play it, in this case your unicorn opponent will just go, okay, I'll do one big attack,
yeah.
I'll
It's
do
like
one big defense.
I will absolutely crush you once, and you can't yeah. It stops if you're already behind. It can buy you a turn, but it's just better not to be behind and to play cards that more proactively slow your opponent down.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, Besides that, we mentioned Mono no Wari a few times, so it might be
yes,
interesting to talk about the titular card.
yes. So if anyone's watching this or will watch this, Mono no Wari, if you don't know, costs 3 fate and it removes a fate from every character on the board.
And it draws you a card.
And it draws you a card. So it's not 100% dead, it's just like 95% dead. Um, I don't know. Like, that clearly feels like it's there to punish.
It's meant to be the neutral version of Consumed by Five Fires.
Sort of. Like, I almost feel like it's there expressly to punish for greater glory.
Yeah, probably
But, like,
like that cease play.
I mean, at the time it did. It doesn't
No,
now. Um, but,
it didn't at the time because of upholding because of the massive amount of cancels because
yeah,
of
okay. That might be. That, like, again, like, it's. I don't know. Like, it doesn't help the tower situation, because and even nowadays, if you watch like any Crane player play, I want this term to stick. They play the Kakita style of L5R, where they buy one character and dump all their fate on it every turn.
Yeah.
And so, if you play a uh, Doji Challenger and you dump three fate on it, it doesn't feel worth it for me to pay three fate to remove one.
No, I think I've mentioned it a few times with people. I think a lot more cards in this game should have X cost, and this is a card I think should have been one of those. X fate cost, X fate from remove X total fate from X characters.
Okay.
So either I pay one to remove one fate from one character, or I use it as a pseudo consumed by five fires to remove five fate from up to five from remove up to five fate from up to five characters.
So I like the idea of making that an X cost or having cards like it that do a similar thing. Um, but it does need to be worse than five fires in some way.
Yeah, sure. I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
spitballing
but
here.
yeah. Like if like say five fire stays unchanged, if Mono no Owari was like pay X up to three and remove X fate from up to X characters.
Yeah,
So that way it doesn't have as much reach
yeah,
and
because
and
that's
it's more
because that's
restrictive on how many it can hit.
yeah, because that's something that happens randomly. Because what you want in a game is that your neutral cards are worse than your incline cards,
Yeah,
but that their effects available to everyone. And we see that with some stuff like Let Go is a prime example, which was a big problem in the early stage of the game. That nothing will ever be better than Let Go.
yeah, and everything that's come out to be other faction attachment hate is significantly worse than Let Go.
You can make an argument for calling in favors because of how much it actually does.
Yes, but at the same time, like
The one
if
fate is relevant, the dishonor is relevant.
it is, but what I was going to say was like if you are because at the time there was those were basically the only attachment hate in the game outside of Mia Mystic. If you were looking to splash for attachment hate, you were always going to go with Dragon
Yeah,
because Let Go is just that much more efficient than calling in favors. Calling in favors can do more if you build around it, but just for absolute raw efficiency, like they made Let Go too good.
yeah. So anyway, that was a long tangent about Monowari
Yeah,
and how
no, I mean it's valid, right? Because it's a card that is supposed to be the philosophy of the game, and maybe it's telling that the philosophy card for the game doesn't see play because the concept itself is dead in the game.
and also because it's overcosted and
Yes,
symmetrical.
yeah, that probably has a lot more to do with it too. Um, the interesting cards, the neutral cards from the elemental cycle, like I don't think there's anything that needs to be said about the elemental neutral conflict and dynasty cards.
Um,
Some of them feel like they're silver bullets that just don't see
uh,
play, like Perfect Land Ethos or Sabotage or Breach of Etiquette.
yeah, I do want to go through some of those.
Sure.
But first, finishing off the Imperial Wave to Chrysanthemum is a card that shouldn't exist, in my opinion. I'll be happy to see it gone. It's a blowout card that can randomly win you a game against people that aren't too familiar with the card pool.
That is that. Yeah, I was gonna say like I am perfectly fine playing against Way of the Chrysanthemum because that is 3 cards in your deck I don't have to worry about.
Yeah,
But at the same
it's a
time,
bad card.
it's because I know the game, I know how to play around it. And yeah, that is a bad feels card
Yeah,
if you don't know the game.
yeah, it's fine to be gone.
Yeah, no, that it needs to go. It was stupid.
It's stupid. Uh, Miyatoshi has been used in 2 or 3 degenerate decks
Yes, I think the
as an
most
engine.
degenerate one was the bird deck.
You think that was the degenerate one, not the influence win combo?
Oh, with Gateway to Mido.
Yeah,
I mean, so strictly speaking, yes, the Gateway to Mido deck was more degenerate, and that is not Satoshi's fault. That is Gateway to Mido's fault for existing in the stupid way it was determined to exist.
yeah. Again, a case of a blanket text not being a action or
Yes.
something.
I would like to see, if you want to have blanket effects like that, just make them triggerable multiple times, and
Yeah,
and keep that reasonable, and not just be like, oh yeah, sure, you can do this as much as you want.
yeah. Because I'm I'll believe that Satoshi was meant for a possible Imperial deck as a tutor, but as we've seen in this game with tutors, is that you go too fast for your deck
Mm-hmm.
to make including tutors worthwhile.
And so, I mean, you're correct. He clearly was designed with the intent of, I need to find an Imperial card. Let me build my deck to include all these Imperial cards. But if you look at when he came out, the pool of Imperial cards
It was
were
terrible.
absolute garbage.
It was the only 3 relevant Imperial cards Satoshi found were Kanjo District, Karada District, and the Imperial Palace.
Yep.
And um, finding any of those 3 cards was a big deal.
Yep.
But for all the other clans, it didn't matter.
No, because like even like at best you could get extra keepers, but you would mill yourself out, and it just. I think if we had seen. And the other dumb thing, actually, we're going to go down this tangent. The most Imperial support has come out of Scorpion, who would never run him to begin with.
Because he mills your deck while you want to have those holdings in play,
Yeah,
and
like
it's
if
weird.
if the Imperial support had been more neutral, and maybe a couple of clans got some other Imperial cards besides the Magistrates that are all basically cancer, um, he might be fine and might still see play, but like it's just terrible.
I will do say me and Satoshi has basically gotten a functional reprint in the Mia library.
Yes, and that doesn't see
Wh-
play.
Nope. But I do prefer the library. The library is fine as a tutor because it interacts
Yes,
more
that like
better with how the game wants to play.
yes, like that is pretty indicative of how big of a miss the design of Satoshi was. Where when they print a card that does what he was supposed to do, it doesn't see play.
Yeah. Next up in the Imperial tangent, we have Stephanie Ishikawa,
Yeah,
which is very fun in the Scorpion Imperial deck,
it is.
but that is not a good deck.
No, it isn't. It
It needs
it
too many holdings in play, which clogs up your dynasty
it
because you
might
don't have the.
it might be better now, since there are some provinces coming out that I think count as imperial.
Oh, it's definitely better. You can make Stephanie Ishikawa massive, but
But that doesn't matter.
it's not a good deck
Yeah,
because you're building around a free cost 2/2.
yeah, that might get big. Um, Miwaku Kabe, that was a stupid thing.
It's terrible. It's slightly better than the Crane and the Lion holdings, and those are garbage.
Those are. I remember. I'm slightly colorblind, and I was building a crab deck, and for some reason I came across the Crane one, Chise District,
Yeah,
and to my dumbass, that looked like a neutral card because the blue was close enough. And so it's like, oh,
yeah.
but this is amazing. You can't declare political conflicts. I suck at defending political. This is going in the deck. And then I sleeved it up, flipped it over, and the light hit it just right. And I went, oh fuck, that's a blue card and not the right kind of blue.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about those two is the text box doesn't matter because you just attack somewhere else.
Yeah. I think if Fantasy Flight ever makes the mistake of printing some kind of like Recalled Defenses in a neutral card, I bet those cards would see play.
I bet it. I bet they don't, because they prevent declaration. I mean, you can put them on your stronghold, then I guess.
That's what I'm talking about. Like for Recalled Defenses, it's
Yeah,
like you just move it to your box and be like, ha, you only get one shot a turn. And that effectively slows the game down, which is what Waning Hostilities wants to do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but those are dumb tangents that we don't need to go down. The Imperial Palace. Uh,
It's a mistake. It did so much in when it was off the RL because everyone played it.
yeah, it was, well, because of how the math worked, you always have at least one random slot if you're running three of everything else, so it might as well be the Imperial Palace.
Yeah, and the +3 glory was very important for getting the
Yep,
favor, and the favor did a lot in those days, and
yep.
even up till last, slightly before last Worlds, it did a lot. The Imperial favor did a lot because
If
Conjure District was still a thing.
if I was going to redo the Imperial Palace, I would actually give it the Fawning Diplomat text and just say, at the start of the Fate phase or at the end, whichever, sacrifice this holding, gain Imperial favor.
I think I would personally like it to work more like the old 5R Imperial favor, where you discarded its, or you give an action, discard the Imperial favor,
Do a
bow
thing.
and send home, and
Oh, that was
do it.
Conjo. That was Conjo District, and that was a fucking mistake
Yeah,
for this game.
only send home then.
Yeah,
Either way, it had a lot of province strength bonus on it.
yeah.
I
I mean,
think +3.
yeah, it was huge. Like the card itself, like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that it's leaving because no one plays it anymore because it was put on the RL. Like they really should have just banned a stupid thing
It's
because
basically soft band.
yeah, it's not as good as any other restricted list card, but it's on there specifically so it doesn't get played.
Yeah, and it it's also on the restrict list instead of the ban list because having a longer ban list is more of a feels bad to um,
This is true.
people.
But at the bottom of this document, there's the new band restricted list after rotation, and it's really short.
Yep. But first, from the imperial tangent, we'll go to the elemental tangent.
Yes. So
So
if
in
you,
elemental cycle, sorry, go
oh
ahead.
no, go ahead. You, all
So
I
in
was,
the
yeah, I'll shut
yeah,
up. You go.
so in the imperial cycle, we saw a whole lot of stuff that worked with the imperial traits and the favoring the elemental cycle. We saw a whole lot of stuff that interacted with elemental traits, of which very few actually saw play because of role locking, Ray is dead. Hooray.
Yep.
Um, but also because, well, some of these are just plain awful.
So it
Uh,
some of them are still seeing play. I think the Tenkinja is showing up in some Scorpion decks because
the
of
Tenkin
how
the
it interacts
Tenkinja was
with
the best one.
uh, forgery.
Yes. I'm not exactly sure if that works the way you want it to, where you reduce the cost and
There was a
lose the honor so you can play it. I don't think it works that way, but still, being able to lose the honor
yeah,
and reduce the cost is good.
yes,
It's also in water, which is relevant for Way of Words.
yes. Kudaka saw a bit of play for a while. Uh,
Kudaka is a card I would like to see more of because it's a good neutral Sugenja with a fine ability and a
yes,
fine stat line.
I think she got played more for her stat to cost and the Shugenja keyword rather than the ability. But like,
Yep,
if that card goes evergreen, I would be happy.
I use
Um,
her as my main character or my primary character in a Line Shugenja deck I used as Cork 2019.
oh, nice,
Yep, win free.
very nice.
Because uh, Kudaka is a good Shugenja and
Yeah,
what is it? Against Wave is a good card.
yeah, it's still a good card despite being half as effective.
Yep,
Um, Yoritomo was cute, but
Yoritomo is Separate Ishikawa but worse. Because
yeah,
Yoritomo costs 5 fate and he
and he gets
promotes you in not spending your fate.
yes, and he gets worse the more cards you play, basically, because eventually you will start spending your fate.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen the Awakened Tsukumogami ever
no,
touch
it's
the
there.
table.
It's really bad, which is a shame.
Yeah, and the Imperial Librarian. I built a cute crane deck that's all about glory and being honored. But I also make terrible decks regularly, and that was one of them.
I saw the Imperial Librarian get played in Scorpion decks uh, with some events that didn't use rule locking because you just dishonored all your
Oh
opponent's
god, yeah, no.
characters. And
If he wasn't firelocked, he'd be amazing. But the Scorpion gets like nothing out of fire, so
yeah,
yeah, I think the Elemental Cycle was a pretty big miss as far
yeah.
as card design goes for neutrals. Except,
Uh,
well, even the provinces are basically misses.
yeah. Because
Uh,
let's see, sabotage felt like a slap in the face
which
to
one?
me.
Oh,
Sabotage.
Sabotage. Yeah,
Overlocked during a military conflict, discard a card from a province. That in the time where you had these massive holdings,
yep.
Imperial Palace, Country District,
So
Hidden Dojo.
if they hadn't have roll locked that card to Earth, which at the time was a very bad roll, I think the game would have been healthier earlier.
Yeah, because either you made you didn't have the roll locked the roll locking, so people could actually try sabotage and see if it was worthwhile,
Hmm.
or you just made it not roll locked,
Yeah,
because then you would have a lot more answers to some of these holdings. Because
yeah. And
I
the funny thing is, they've printed a bunch of better cards than Sabotage since then
yeah
that basically do the same thing, and those haven't broken the game in half.
yeah like the biggest one we've gotten is a Season of War, and
Yep.
actually a Season of War has from the decks we've seen, it doesn't even get a lot of play anymore because they're better rally cards.
Yeah, I think, and Anil pointed this out in Scorpion Chat. A Season of War is probably going to see more play since Contested Countryside got restricted and Lost Papers got banned because it is a general purpose rally card. So
Yeah,
it's not going to be because of the text, or it's not going to be because of the effect. It's because of the rally keyword.
yeah, because we've probably all been in a situation where you flop a Season of War and a few good characters, but your opponent also has a few good characters,
Their characters are
and
just a
you're
little better.
yeah, and you're very much debating, is this worth it?
Yeah, and I think cards that prompt that debate, like, is this good for me to do right now, are good for the game.
Yeah, it's
Um,
fine. The unfortunate thing is that a Season of War just uh, invalidates any crap holding deck.
yeah, which makes me sad because I have often wanted to build a Crab Dishonor deck. I probably still will. That runs Recalled Defenses to throw Haruma Outpost on the box. And I know that's a thing I've seen that done recently. Um,
Yeah,
I just wish it didn't automatically die to Season of War.
yeah. One suggestion I've seen is have a Season of War not be all, but have only specific things. But that's so much text you need to change. That's basically a
Yeah.
whole different card. Um, all right. Well, that's enough. I want to talk about
Yeah, none of the other, like I
those
said,
messes.
most of the cards are irrelevant.
Yeah.
Um, so the elemental holdings, or not holdings, provinces.
Well, same thing as a lot of what we've already talked about. Some extremely good ones and uh, some bad ones.
Really not good ones. I think
So
unquestionably
yeah,
upholding authority is probably the best one.
yeah,
Like there's when that card rotates out, it's going to impact a lot of different decks. It's not going to be a huge impact. You just swap out for a different Earth province, but a lot of decks will change because that card is pretty ubiquitous.
it changes very much how some people play their turns.
Yes.
Because it happens often enough that in plans that can't negate its effect, like Unicorn Wishing the Ambusher, or random decks that play Pathfinder's Blade or Sunuri,
Yep.
like Upholding Authority is such a massive blow because it's card information and it discards up to 3 cards, and it's almost always your up to 3 best cards, depending on how good your opponent is,
Yep.
which is terrible. It's
I
policy debate got banned for doing what this province does,
Yes, but Policy Bait got banned because you could do it 3 times. This you only get to do once.
which is a fair point. But I did say that Upholding Authority removes up to 3 cards.
Yes.
So
I'm not going to be sad to see any of these go.
no, Upholding Authority is a terrible card to exist. I get why they made it. Um, we all hate to run into it. We all love it when our opponent
Yeah.
does it.
Yeah. It is
Uh,
definitely a strong card, and I think it has largely defined
yep.
play styles.
Another of the good ones is Abandoning Honor
Yep.
because it does what Scorpion loves to do. It does what any Dishonored deck loves to do. It kills Dishonored characters.
Yep. And that was always, or maybe not always, but it definitely turned into this is the Hail Mary. It's going on my box because of how the timing works.
Which I love. I love that way. Uh, I I think it's ingenious and it promotes uh, it, it promotes a playstyle that if your opponent knows it, that they think more about how they spend their honor.
Yes.
I
Like
think
that.
that's totally fine.
That's probably the province I'm most sad to see go. But at the same time, at least in Scorpion, and Scorpion was the only one that really ran it. Um, with stuff like Unbridled Ambition coming out, um, I don't think that abandoning honor sees much, if any, more play.
Yeah, it's fallen off the wayside.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
Next one would be Appealing to the Fortunes. That one's
Playing to the
basically
Fortunes,
only in Unicorn.
it did also see a lot of play in line when line HMT was line's
Yes.
only hope.
Yes. Um, but I don't think either of them are running it a bunch now.
Yeah, the biggest strike against is how Appealing to the Fortunes interacts with the watering.
Yep. I remember
And then,
playing against Unicorn and being like, hey, I know what that last one is. It's Appealing to the Fortunes. I'm going to go there with the water ring, and
yep,
you're going to be sad.
yep. Um, it's also cheating. In fact, it's fine not to exist. It had to compete with Shameful Display and
Yeah.
Pilgrimage.
And even now, Weight of Duty is probably going to be like the most recent cycle of elemental provinces are much better. They're more balanced. You can make a case for all of them rather than these ones.
Yeah, so that's also a point we wanted to make. Like the current cycle of elemental provinces interact a lot more interesting with their elements
Yes, because
because
they applied
they do
all of them.
yeah because they do a thing as a water province which makes them multi-use,
Yeah.
makes them interesting with the element provinces because they're multi-elements, but also they show that design has learned from province interaction by players,
Yes.
as they're all provinces you want to defend because they're all useful in some manner.
Yeah.
The provinces were from from elemental cycle all got a bonus province strength if you played that element,
Which was
but they
backwards.
all had a on break effect,
Yes. It.
which made them absolutely terrible.
I think.
Except maybe Upholding Authority, because that was so bonkers, still got played in Earth rolls.
Yeah. So the biggest benefit to upholding authority, if you were playing an Earth roll, is everyone forgot that it got the bonus strength, and so they'd run at it and be like, "Ah, shit, I'm accidentally breaking it. Well, I guess I'll pass." And you just be like, "Okay, cool, pass. You didn't break it. Try again."
Yeah, which is valid. Like if your opponent, it's on both players to
Yeah.
read the cards.
Never tell your opponent they've made a mistake. Let them figure it out on its own.
Yeah.
Um, the other two
Also don't
provinces. Oh, go on.
don't try to hide information.
I mean, yeah, don't be an asshole about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But otherwise, these provinces were terribly designed because
well,
um,
the worst one that was designed was Seeking the Truth, and that is the worst out of his cycle.
but I know what the other ones do, but I have no idea what Seeking the Truth does. That's the
That's the one where if it breaks before the characters go home bowed, you can move a defender home.
oh right, it's the water one.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so
fucking
bad.
terrible. It literally does nothing. And Demonstrating Excellence was a one-shot manicured and fertile fields, so it was unimpressive.
Yeah, there was an argument for it in the HMT decks because those hardly defended.
Yeah, I was gonna say in
So
any kind
you,
of like suicide deck where you just attack, attack, attack,
yeah,
that
so
Demonstrating Excellence was okay if you had to take it in province.
yeah, it was better than Manicured or Fertile because you expected it would get only one activation anyway,
Yeah,
and at least that way you got a card and a fate off of it.
yeah, but that playstyle turned out to not be very tenable. So
Well, at least it didn't for line.
yeah, I mean even Unicorn now at least pretends to defend occasionally.
uh, Yeah, at least a lot more than they used to.
Yeah. Um, so now we're down to the functional reprints. I don't think I missed any. I think these are all the ones we've seen. Forgery obviously replaces Edict. Ceaseless Duty replaces Reprieve. Apprentice Engineer replaces Rebuild. In Search of Self replaces Fury. And the Spirit Caller Prodigy replaces the Kitsu Spirit Caller.
And these are functional reprints from the current cycle, the Dominion cycle, I believe.
Yes. All
Yeah.
of these. So these were. So, like, these kind of cards existing heavily imply that at rotation, which was supposed to be basically next month, there would also be a Core 2.0 kind of thing that would
Yeah.
that would probably remove some of these cards.
A Core 2.0, at least maybe a new restricted or ban list to soft ban some of these
Yeah,
cards
just
or hard ban them.
yeah, because you could easily argue for most of them that the functional reprint is weaker than what they're replacing.
Uh,
The
I would
only
say
edge case,
all.
ceaseless duty, maybe better or on par.
I think it's close between those two because Sister's Duty is a surprise,
Yes.
and also because Reprieve can't be stolen by your
Yeah.
Scorpion opponents.
Yeah. All the others are weaker versions of the same effect. Ceaseless duty is a lateral move. It's better in some ways, worse in others.
Yeah.
Uh,
Apprentice Engineer is, I'm not sure, the fact that it sacrifices itself is useful currently in decks, but
does he
Rogue is
sacrifice?
also rotating out.
Yeah. Does he sacrifice himself? I thought it was when he came into play.
Let me check.
Yeah. Uh, no, that's not going to work. I have full screen on. I'll let you do it.
Engineer enters play. All right, that's better.
Okay.
That's
So
actually better because then you put it into play, you get your holding, which could be a funeral pyre, do your conflict, and then sacrifice it.
yeah, the one case where he's clearly worse is with Cooney Labs because then you're paying the honor loss for it.
Uh, no, because it's a conflict character.
Oh, he's a conflict character?
Yeah,
I thought he was a dynasty character. Ignore me.
no,
I'm an idiot. No, you're
conflict.
right. Yep.
Um,
Wow, actually, does that make him better than Rebuild? I guess you have to
no,
pay for him,
no,
so
cost to fate.
yeah. But you get a body for it. It's better than I thought. I thought it was
It's
a
definitely
dynasty.
better than thought, and it's gonna get used as a rebuild replacement
Yeah,
and as a uh, sacrifice outlet for
yeah.
Wave the Crab. It's a sacrifice outlet basically.
I mean, he basically lets you run a worse rebuild and Iron Mines or Cooney Labs or whatever.
Yeah,
Which
I I think it's gonna be Iron Mine if it was me.
I don't know. He's a 2-1.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Cooney Labs turns into a 3-2. That could have some merit to it in a deck.
yeah, but I think you just get more use out of Iron Mine with Crab's character suite.
Yeah,
Either way, that's a deck discussion
yeah.
for another time.
Um, but yeah, so
Um,
I don't think I missed any of the other reprints.
there might be some, but these are the most glaring ones.
Yeah. Uh,
Force Edict is too efficient. Reprieve is um,
the problem with Reprieve is it's one influence.
yeah. Either make it free, because from what I'm seeing, all the cards that Ceaseless Duty, Call to War, and I think something else all have influence cost of free. Ring of Binding, I think it is.
That costs one, doesn't it?
Um, Ring of Binding. No, also free.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so everything that keeps characters longer into play have effectively uh, shown that design realized that it's too good at a low influence cost.
Yeah. And Ceaseless Duty is 3, so.
Yeah.
But, yep. So, after all this happens, or would have happened, the banned restricted list is basically Scorpion.
Yeah, some cards which are very problematic that prevent stuff from being played. Guest of Honor,
Yeah, those.
you never see it back.
No, those go
I
away. Oh, Guest of Honor
think
got a reprint.
yeah, because um,
Master of the
I think the
Court.
new ones, Master of the Court. I think Master of the Court is fine because
Yeah, no, it's. I think it's got covert. I think that might be a little bit much, but otherwise, the ability it has is fine. It only cancels one event a turn. It's fine.
so Eric Vaas is um, someone I play against regularly.
Uh
He's
huh.
the previous Shogun, and he's not sure whether he Master of Court. Last time I spoke to him about it, whether Master of Court is even good enough to play.
It has rally, doesn't it?
It's got a lot of text, but he's not sure. It might have changed since we spoke because it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Nope, doesn't have a rally.
Don't have, it's
Just goes
just.
covert.
Oh no, I think
And
having an on the table cancel is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't play Crane. I'm not as good as Eric. Probably never will be. But I can see value in having a on the table reusable cancel.
yep, there definitely is. Um, but it might have something to do with the discussion we had about big toss
Yeah,
because
or
he does nothing except the covert, and he's a 1/4 for 4.
yeah. I I think if you made him a 1/3 and he lost to covert, he could be a 3 coster
I think if you lose the covert, he could have been a free caster.
as a 1/4.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
because we've already seen the you mentioned the Noyan. The Noyan is a free caster, and that's a 4/0.
So, yes, I don't know how fair of a comparison that is because it's in a different cycle.
I have no clue because you can't really look at cards in a vacuum in this game.
You can't, but like obviously there's going to be some level of power creep every cycle, and so I don't think it's the fairest evaluation to say this character is a 3 coster but has uh, more useful stats or whatever because they're across cycles. But I don't know. Like,
It's very hard to say.
yeah,
But anyway, so the balance it's Cast of Honor. The liar on there is stupid.
that
Spyglass is fair. Charge is fair. Original Tadak is fair. Daisho is fair.
yep.
Lost Papers is fair. These
Lost,
are all cards that have a negative play experience
yep,
or boost you in such a way that you come out ahead. Like Spyglass is way too much card draw.
yep. Especially since one person could carry 3 of them.
Yep.
I think City needs to be banned for the health of the game, but that's never going to happen.
I'm not sure about that with how much of the I think it's fine to keep it as restricted.
So,
That might, and that's because the current Scorpion deck we saw with the Discord League wasn't even City of the Open Hand. I think it's fine to keep it on the restricted list with all of these other cards from the first and second cycle leaving that had such an imbalance in design.
so yes, but a problem that is going to forever like happen is City of the Open Hand is going to continue putting more and more Scorpion cards on the RL because of how they interact with City of the Open Hand because it's so stupid.
And that's a completely fair statement.
And so for like more flexibility in future design, I would rather lose City of the Open Hand and just rely on KB, SSK, and I assume there's going to be another box somewhere down the line just to open
I mean,
up the
I mean
design
with
space.
with KB and Seven Stings Keep, you already got two good holdings
Yeah, no,
or
they're great.
holdings strongholds.
They are good. I'm not saying that they're not. Neither of them lend themselves to a Dishonor playstyle, which I think is a valuable part of the game. I just think City of the Open Hand is too good at it.
Um, yeah, you can do Dishonor out of either of the other ones. City of the Open just removes a lot of the consequences and
Yeah,
speeds it up a bit too much. And probably, yeah, the biggest sin against City of the Open Hand is that everything in the Scorpion Corporal will always need to be considered. How does this interact with City of the Open Hand?
yeah,
It's kind of like Charge, because Charge
yes.
influenced way too much
Could
design of Lion and Unicorn.
So, given that we know Dire is coming and how it works, could you imagine how bonkers Charge would be with
Oh
the
yeah,
Dire?
it would have been very stupid,
Yeah.
especially if you got more expensive characters with Dire.
Mm-hmm. Or more like blowout effects. It like Charge needed to be banned because of what it did, but I think because it's banned, Dire can be a non-busted mechanic, and that's the
Yeah,
same reason why I think City should be banned because it makes design less strenuous for Scorpion cards because you don't have to worry about how it's going to interact with this card.
yeah,
Uh,
completely fair point.
Keeper Initiate, I actually want that card banned. I don't like it. I think for the longest time it made Keeper the de facto role choice.
Oh, keeper niches do a lot of things we've already mentioned that are
Yeah.
stupid. They're free, they win you the favor, and they're bodies for other effects.
Yep. It's just I don't like them.
It,
I think they should have been banned, but whatever.
they've essentially been soft banned unless people have used a certain like only really Crab and Unicorn
Yeah, because
use it because they don't have really another option.
yeah. Well,
And
they
from
do.
what I'm
They do now with contested countryside. So I
yeah, I
think
was about to say it.
that being
I'm
on
pretty
there,
sure.
keepers are dead.
Yeah, Crab might still do it if they're leaning a bit more into the sacrifice effects because you can cycle them over.
Yeah. Display of like all the rest of the cards that are on the restricted list, I think deserve to be
Yeah,
on there.
display of power. I don't think should ever exist because it makes attacking a bad choice.
Yep. Now,
Dude, yeah,
I think duty is actually okay. It's just how it plays with City of like Shoju 2 and Duty are probably never going to come off the RL as long as City of the Open Hand is there.
duty is bad because of how it works with the draw phase.
So yes,
Because
but Lion
it's not. Yeah.
Lion just got a similar card.
Oh no, it's terrible.
Is it?
Yeah, because you show it to your opponent. I play this card. I paid Fate for it. Where I'm announcing my intention to enter in with you a bid mind game.
Right, but that means you can like win the bid mind game and then win the game.
So what happens is, oh, uh, either I draw extra cards because I'm an honor deck, uh, which means my opponent will bid one anyway. Oh, all right, I got better cards I can draw cards of, like tactical ingenuity or any of the other draw effects.
Like,
Uh,
I mean, I understand that, and I'm the worst at playing honor decks. My brain just does not comprehend those lines. But if you're sitting at 20 honor and you play that card, your opponent still has to bid 1, and you can still bid 5. Because
yeah, but
your
it means
your opponent can't risk getting that mind game wrong.
you're playing those cards, and also it's in a Earth roll, which means you're not playing echoes, which means you don't have the burst potential.
That's probably the thing I'm missing, is that it is roll locked.
Yeah, the if it was air, probably a different conversation,
Yeah, that's fair.
because then you're able to push more for the air roll. But either way, duty is terrible because it's a surprise card. You don't see it coming per se. You might see it coming as a player because
But you
of
still can't.
how the game is going.
But you still can't do anything but play into it.
Yeah,
Because
because
if you lose the mind game, you immediately lose the game. I guess
yeah,
that's fair.
yeah.
Um,
Um, we'll go to the next one.
yeah,
I
Ti, that needs to be on there alongside Sonuri, because Lion needs to have a choice.
Yeah, it's basically make line have a choice.
Yeah,
It's fine. Like technical ingenuity is isn't terribly amazing with some stuff. It's basically the complete commander package. As either you play into the commanders, and then you take TI. If you don't play completely into the commanders, I guess
I mean,
contested countryside or
or
Sunuri. I
Sonuri. Yeah,
I
I
prefer Sunuri.
I think so too, especially with the new Lion box, because then you can attack into provinces consequence free.
Yep. It's I don't know. It basically means um, these two cards probably are going to be Lions RL picks forever because tactical ingenuity is from the clan pack.
Yes, I do think, like you mentioned, if people don't go into the commander package, the choice between contested countryside and Sonuri is going to come down to what the meta looks like for provinces.
Yes,
If it's
and I
if it's things that the Lion players, like if there's a bunch of provinces that are passive or on break, I think you'll see more Sonuri. Oh no, sorry, I said that backwards. No, I was right. You'll see Sonuri, and then if it's things that are action events, you'll probably see more contested countryside.
yeah I think with this rotation because one of the biggest offenders is upholding authority and sacred sanctuary, which
Mm-hmm.
are very big provinces to attack with Sonuri 2. If you don't have to worry about upholding authority being in the row, it changes a lot about how you attack your opponent's provinces.
Oh yeah, you can be much more aggressive.
Yeah, which also means you don't need to have these blanket effects, which are not fun to play against. Because then, is this card worth it when my opponent is running like value stuff like shameful? Well, shameful probably because of Lion's Glory, but
Yeah,
stuff like Manicured Garden or something else.
yeah, it's not
Like
gonna like it. You want Sonuri for more blowout things, and I think you want contested countryside for the more value provinces.
yeah, contested countryside is we've mentioned a bit before, contested countryside is probably going to be amazing for crab and unicorn because they have
Yeah.
little else to choose from.
Well, I mean, crab can also get
They can't
mileage
double dip.
with Itsuji.
No, SUG doesn't interact with contested countryside.
Is he only one defending?
No, it's a ruling that SUG can't use your opponent's provinces twice with contested countryside.
I will take your word for it, but that sounds really stupid. Like it seems like he should, but
Raw, he does. Uh, Ruling says, please no, that's not what we want.
oh, okay. So it's bad templating again, or bad playtest, or bad design.
Uh, Column A, column B.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yep. So we've gone through all the plans. We've looked at functional reprints. We looked at the rotation. So what what is your judgment? Like we've got some obvious losers and some obvious
I think I think
people that don't care.
yeah, I think Scorpion is would be the quote unquote winner out of this. Just because a bunch of the cards that are rotating out are already restricted, and they've got more blowout events that they can play instead. Um,
Interesting, because I actually think it would be Crane.
Crane is the winners. I mean, Crane loses nothing really, nothing critical, except for Magistrate Station.
Yeah, which they can do without.
Yeah, um, yeah, I can see that. I could see it being a close contest between Crane and Scorpion for coming out on top.
Scorpion just feels bad because they lose a lot of cards that are on their all because they're strong.
Yeah,
Because they're all on the ORL, you can't play them anyway.
yeah. I think Phoenix probably comes out okay-ish.
Yep.
Uh, then Lion and Crab. I don't think.
I'm not so sure because there are things there that are pretty good, but then again, some of it has been restricted or is in a role they don't want.
Yeah, like I think I would put them like I don't want to say unaffected, maybe apathetic to the change.
They'll be sad to see Fight On go. They'll be sad to see Infiltrator go, but
Yeah,
um,
like they'll live. It's not going to hurt them.
yeah.
But I mean, obviously, Dragon and Unicorn are way down at the bottom.
Yeah, if this is this preview of what the RL or what the rotation would have been is any indication, this uh, coming cycle 5 and 6 are going to be critical for Dragon and Unicorn
Mm-hmm.
because they either need effective replacements for the cards to keep playing what they are playing, or they need something to shift them into a deck which will uh, um, weather rotation.
Yeah, or there needs to be some kind of like core 1.5 product to make specific cards evergreen.
Yeah.
Because right now, like Dragon has no deck. Especially since the cards they've gotten recently have just been terrible.
Yeah, like you mentioned In Search of Self as a functional reprint of Mirumoto's Fury, but it's just so bad.
Yeah, it's so much worse than Mirumoto's Fury. But that is what it's supposed to replace, right? Like it's a bow effect on an attacking character.
What's the exact wording again?
Oh,
So you can rip into it.
oh yeah, no, it's going to be.
Oh yeah, it's printed cost. Yeah, printed cost extra lower where X is equal to the number of face down province you control.
Yeah, It is so freaking terrible, and it's just not going to load for me, so that's fine.
I I don't know why they changed it to printed cost instead of glory. I don't know why.
Um, it has a broader effect.
Wait, what? Broader?
Yeah. So
What?
like it can affect more characters independent of their glory.
No.
Well, sure, because
The
they could print a high glory two cost
the high
character.
the highest printed glory is 4, and that's only on Sukune. The next is 3.
Nope, it's Shoju's 5, isn't he? No, hang on. What the hell am I talking
Shoju is
about?
4. Shoju 2 is 4.
I may not know what I'm talking about.
Either way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the the printed cost goes down a lot faster
So
than
I
glory.
wonder if it was done that way to make it more of an early game card.
Probably,
But at
but
that
mirror
point,
mode is
why just do it? I mean, it's I guess they want Dragon to care about face down provinces, but turning provinces face down is so pointless. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
It's just all kinds of sad.
it's a shame. Anyway, so functional reprints, except for Insert Yourself, I'm pretty okay with all of them. For ceaseless duties, the only one I'd say is on par,
Yeah,
depending on how you look at it. The rest are worse because forgery of fate is relevant. Apprentice engineer is a character, but to fate is
yeah.
very relevant.
Spirit Color Prodigy is lateral and a little bit down because it is a conflict character.
It's noticeably worse
You don't get
because
the big swingers.
you don't get the big characters, which and Spirit Color Prodigy by itself is also free fate. So then, why don't I pay free fate for the character and put fate on it so it stays long in play? It's
Because those are arguments that
and
make sense.
and also something people often forget is Spirit Color can target the conflict discard pile
Yes,
as well.
I have seen Spirit Caller call up a bunch of Kami before.
Yep. Um, which is probably a valid reason why Prodigy doesn't target the conflict discard pile.
Mm-hmm. Which
Uh, but
is
it just means that you'll keep playing Kitsu Spirit Color.
yeah, that's probably accurate. I will say all that's true, and that makes it extra infuriating that the Spirit Caller Prodigy has an influence cost.
No,
Oh,
that
he
doesn't
doesn't.
matter. It has one influence. Do you
Yeah,
know why
but
it doesn't matter?
because you can't put lion characters in your dynasty discard pile if you're not lion.
Exactly.
So why does it have the influence cost?
Because it's I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I actually I say that in outrage, and I think that might be a concession for draft. So I wonder if that's like them including alternate formats in the design.
I think that that's probably true,
That might be
which
overly
is fine.
generous. Yeah, I mean, it just bothers me because I don't play draft, I don't play skirmish. I prefer the stronghold 1v1 format. And so when I see things that don't make sense, it just irks me.
No, it's a valid reason. Like you, draft is fun. You want to support it for the people that like it, because
Yes,
and essentially for Stronghold, this card has no
no
influence.
influence. Yeah,
But for draft, you can include it for to support a archetype for a potential line deck you can draft. But it's also not a dead card.
yeah. That I think that's like all joking aside. It's the influence is there for draft, and if that's the case, hopefully they do more of that. but I don't know.
They've already gotten a lot better with their wording for stuff.
Yes, yeah, they've definitely opened up their wording for multiplayer at least.
Yep.
So we've been going for like seconds away from 3 hours, and it's got to be really late when you are or where you are.
It's past 2 a.m. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's Saturday tomorrow.
yeah. I appreciate you taking all this time to basically sit and bullshit about what could have been.
This is probably the most enjoyable Alpha War card discussion I've had in a month.
Oh well, good. I'm glad I could be a part of that then. Um, we can always like actually do this again in the future with the other discussions about like clan packs and other things as well. I would certainly be open to that if you enjoyed it.
Yeah, sure. Actually, podcasting or at least talking about Alpha War is something I've considered a lot for a longer time,
I,
but
I've
never have.
I've considered it as well. I'm going to start doing pack reviews with some locals just to see if it's worth the effort. It's certainly fun. In some ways, it's more fun than actually playing
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
because there are no losers and there's no bad feelings here.
I, I would like to do practice because, like you saw with the Uchi Rime comments I had,
Uh huh.
I, I do often think outside of the box on a lot of cards with interactions.
Yeah. I enjoy playing a bunch of jank and bullshit decks. The one I most recently put together was a Scorpion deck that runs Stoke Insurrection, but then it also runs Unfulfilled Duty and Suffer the Consequences.
Yep.
So all the characters I steal, I can sacrifice to do more with, or stand them up to do more with.
I mean, I think a Seeker Scorpion deck is going to be very annoying in the future because of the duel that's coming up, the one that puts fate on characters.
Oh yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Stoke is a mistake.
Um,
Welcome to my
the
TED
TED
talk.
Talk, TED Talk over. Um, I can see why they printed Stoke. Um, I
it
I
it
hope.
should have had the echoes text.
Yeah, keep well.
Re-
So like, if you're gonna go with lore and theming, it should have a non-unique clause on it. It shouldn't be able, like, given how the story has played out in the fiction, there is no reason why I should be able to, as a Scorpion player, play Stoke Insurrection and steal a Yoshi, a Sumiko, a Toturi.
yeah.
Like I should be able to take any of the nameless horde I find, but I shouldn't be able to take named people because you figured those would be the ones most loyal to things.
I think for balance reasons it should have had the echoes text
Yeah, that would have been fine too.
because then you can't keep them in play.
Yeah, because I've seen, like, I've watched a bunch of games when it first came out, and more than once I saw someone stoke a Chagatai
Yep.
and then use Calling in Favors to steal a curved blade onto Chagatai and then stand him up with Kyuden and then
Uh-huh.
go break face.
It's awful, and it's not even a high roll.
Well, I will say I've played Stoke Insurrection a bunch of times, and more than once I have had miserable choices. Where it's like, hey, I can take a Mia Mystic and a Keeper Initiate. This is great. I'm glad I
Oh,
paid. I'm glad I
let
paid
me
four
put
fate for this.
let me put like this, and you can easily make it to fate with the Governor's Spy, which is a fine card to have because then you can
It
also look
is.
at whether it's worthwhile.
It is. However, the more I think about that, the less I think Governor Spy is actually a cost reduction because you're having to pay for a Governor Spy and probably put fate on him to begin with. So long term, you're
Yeah, but
spending the same fate, but in that turn, you're saving money.
yeah, but you need characters at some point. You can't. Well, I've seen some games where you can only play your opponent's characters and still win, but yeah,
But Stoke has problems. It's high variance. Because I've had it with I've heard people complain that they've seen like all holdings in dynasty events.
I think the best way to say it's too consistent for what
It's
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 designed for.
it's consistently good, but sometimes the floor is the absolute bottom, and sometimes there's no ceiling. It's just all the good. Um, so yeah, it definitely needed something. Either echoes goes back on the bottom, goes to their discard pile, can't target uniques, whatever. And it needed something to make it at least pretend to be reasonable.
Agreed. Well, I think we'll keep our rant at that.
Yes,
That
because otherwise we'll
if
just keep going.
I hope that anyone that watched this night or will watch this at a later point enjoyed our ramblings.
And it looks like we got a bunch of
And
bots that are just watching, so I'll export this to YouTube and throw it somewhere on the Discord, and
sharing would be a good place.
then we can see either how incredibly right we were or how incredibly wrong we are.
I would just be glad if it created some discussion
Yes,
that wasn't complaining about new cards.
yes. I mean, we have to wait a whole new month before we complain about new cards now.
I mean, we spent two of us spent 3 hours discussing this. I'm sure a whole Discord can spend like 2 days
Yeah.
discussing it.
Yep. All right, man. I will let you go. Thank you for joining. I enjoyed it a whole lot.
I enjoyed it as well.
All right.
Have a good afternoon, night, whatever you are.
It's nighttime for me now. I'm sure it's super late for you. So,
Yeah, like
all
I
right.
said, it's past 2 a.m.
All right. Well, go get some sleep then.
All right.
All
See
right.
you.
Take care. Bye.